Joshua Sanders, the spearmaster, who broke traditions and norms, was supposed to have a sword to be considered a master of weapons. Joshua is regarded as the strongest person on the entire continent of Egnar, and he is such a great and powerful hero that he single-handedly won the entire war of the Evlion kingdom. However, after all these achievements, the strong hero met his fate in the most horrific way possible, at the hands of his allies. As Joshua lay dying, he asked his friends why they did this to him. They told him that, as a master of weapons, he was able to develop his mana to inhuman levels, and that the holy powers within him were now clashing with the demonic forces they had implanted in him. If he were an ordinary person, he would have died in seconds, but he is anything but ordinary. Joshua questioned why they betrayed him, reminding them that he had always served them and never coveted the throne or kingship. His life's goal was to prove his significance and strength as a spear protector, and to escape his past as the son of a concubine. The most important thing to him was his desire to help his only friend end the war in his empire and restore it to the throne, that he had served them as their shield and was ready to die for him. The Wizard Tower leader, Evergrande, told Joshua that some people in this life pose a danger simply by existing, and now the Emperor has regained his authority and can exert control over everyone. They can handle any threat they face, except for him. If he decided to destroy the Empire, no one could stop him. The wizard spent years trying to imbue a small dagger with mana, but he could effortlessly coat his entire weapon in mana. His spear was not natural like him, and he was aware he had surpassed human capabilities and learned something stronger than the aura of swords. As Joshua was dying, he looked at the cursed magical orb that had poisoned him, realizing this orb was found in the ruins of Amon, and that he needed to be cautious of it. The Knight Commander told Joshua that he was afraid of his overwhelming power, and that one day the spear might turn against them. They thanked him for everything he had done for the kingdom up to that point, and joked about him dying and resting so they could take over. The Emperor told them he could no longer bear to see his close friend die, and that now was the time for them to leave. Joshua, calling out to Emperor Caesar, told him not to rejoice or think this was his end, that he would take revenge on them all. They told him no, he wouldn't survive, and that he was trapped under an explosive magical field set to kill him. Joshua was shocked, realizing he had no way to escape that place, that he was just a foolish spearmaster, deceived by his close friend, and he would die alone without anyone caring for him. Suddenly, his legendary spear began to react, and Joshua was surprised, realizing that his spear had many special abilities he was unaware of. It absorbed a large amount of blood from the battlefield in an effort to save the kingdom. Joshua pulled himself towards the spear and declared that he would put forth his final effort. He gripped his spear and begged it to save him, just as the magical circle beneath him exploded, marking the end of Duke Joshua Sanders, the strongest knight of the Avalon Empire. But suddenly, Joshua woke up in a horse stable, shocked, wondering where he was, as he was supposed to be dead from the magical explosion. How was he alive? And also his body felt very small. He stepped outside the stable to confirm the environment and realized he had returned to the past, to his childhood. Joshua rejoiced, saying that his wish had come true, and this was his chance for revenge for what had happened to him. Suddenly, a group of soldiers approached Joshua, asking what he was doing. They had asked him to clean the stable. Joshua recognized that these soldiers were loyal to his father, commanders of his troops named Rolls, Lloyd, and Jord. They asked Joshua why he wasn't responding. Rolls and Lloyd told him to calm down and that Joshua couldn't speak. Joshua said he had been pretending in his past life that he couldn't talk to avoid being beaten. Jord mentioned that he hadn't seen Lukia in a while and asked where she was. Rolls told him to be quiet so the Duke wouldn't hear them and kill them. Joshua thought that the Lucia they were talking about was his mother, and that she was a servant in the Duke's household. He was the illegitimate youngest son of the Duke, because the Duke had forced her to bear him and then expelled her from the palace. All her followers bullied him because he was the son of a servant, and he said the three he wanted to take revenge on the most were right in front of him. Lloyd expressed his longing for Lucia and wanted to see her. Rolls warned him, but Lloyd insisted there was no need to worry, and that the Duchess had promised them that, even if she and Joshua were killed, she would protect them, and the Duke would not know anything about the situation. Since Lucia wasn't present now, they decided to waste their time beating Joshua. Joshua declared that he didn't plan on letting them live after they had insulted his mother, and began gathering mana in his hand, stating that this method of mana training was what he practiced in his past life, and no one knew about it because he had invented it. It could take him to his strongest state in a short time, and this method didn't rely on the mana within his body like other methods, but rather used the mana dispersed in the air. Thus, he was not bound by the mana reservoir in his body. Joshua began to absorb mana from the surrounding atmosphere and channel it to his hand, believing he could surpass them now that he was using mana. Jord looked at Joshua and said he would attack him, getting angrier each time he looked at him. Jord approached Joshua, stating he could not control himself today because he was furious. However, he was taken aback to find that Joshua wasn't focused on them, instead closing his eyes as if he were sleeping. Joshua, who was gathering mana in his hand, noted that this method had taken him 10 years to learn in his past life, but now he knew everything about it and could use it easily. Jord charged at Joshua, claiming he was pissed off, but Joshua countered his attack with his mana fist, inflicting significant damage. He declared that it was over. Rolls was shocked, not knowing what had happened. Joshua noticed something different in his body. He felt a disgusting magical power within his mana reservoir that was supposed to be empty. Lloyd drew his sword and approached Joshua, threatening to kill him. Joshua thought it was dangerous for him to deal with someone wielding a sword, especially with his small body. However, if he defeated Lloyd, Rolls might also come after him, but he told himself it wasn't important because he had an idea. Lloyd charged at Joshua again, announcing he would kill him, but Joshua swiftly dodged the attack, using his mana punch to retaliate with a strong attack that defeated him. Rolls was astounded, stating he never imagined this boy could be so strong, and it was impossible to defeat 2 knights by chance. Joshua was in pain, and remarked that he didn't expect this much pain to come from using mana. He acknowledged that Rolls was smart, reaching his position using his mind, so he would exploit this point against him to show he was stronger. Joshua told Rolls he wanted to send a message to the other knights. Rolls was shocked that he was able to speak. Joshua instructed him to relay his message to the knights and all his comrades. Anyone who insults his mother from now on would die. Rolls was terrified of his fierce intent to kill and quickly fled the area. Joshua realized his plan had succeeded. He had reached his limit and fainted. Later, the servants in the main palace, discussing Joshua, said he had easily defeated 3 knights and had pretended he couldn't speak to deceive everyone. They speculated that he might be special, but would never be like his brother, Babel. Another servant remarked that all of this was just gossip, and that it was impossible for the son of a servant to achieve such feats. The first servant replied that even if the rumors were true, a succession war could start between him and his brother Babel. His friend said it was impossible for that weak Joshua to defeat Babel. The second servant agreed, noting that Babel could use mana, and that Duke Eganus had been able to use mana at 16. Babel had even managed to use it at 14, making him a genius who surpassed his own father. The servant affirmed their claims, stating it was impossible for the son of a servant to defeat Babel. But suddenly, Joshua appeared before them, terrifying them. Joshua shouted at them to stop talking and ordered them to tell the Duke that he had arrived here at his request. He then went to meet the Duke, who was interrogating Knight Rolls about what had happened. The Duke showed him Jord's military uniform, which was found in ruins. Eganus informed him that, according to Jord's words, it was Joshua who caused this destruction in Knight Jord. Rolls confirmed that it was true, and the Duke's aide, Jifon, insisted that he think carefully about his words before answering because he could be executed for lying. Rolls insisted that he was not lying. The Duke asked Jifon for his opinion, and Jifon said he did not believe Rolls' words. The Duke agreed and asked how old his son was now. Jifon replied that he was 9 years old. The Duke remarked that it was impossible for a 9-year-old to ruin a military uniform made of orc leather so easily, and he must have used mana. Jifon insisted it was impossible, and that no historical record mentioned a 9-year-old child being able to use mana. He suggested it must be a knight genius with the potential to use magic to achieve such a feat at this age. He expressed doubts that Rolls and his friends were lying to conceal the truth of bullying Joshua. Jifon urged the Duke to allow him to take the knight to punish him in front of all his colleagues, so they would be deterred from doing so again. Rolls insisted he was not lying, and Jifon was enraged, wanting to kill him, but the Duke stopped him, stating they would discover the truth when they met the original issue, Joshua. The Duke was amazed he would meet the son of the servant, noting that he had not previously moved to meet even his son Babel. The Duke then asked Jifon where his son was, to which Jifon replied he had summoned him to the palace and that he was waiting for him now. The Duke replied, "Okay, we will go meet him now." Next, we see Joshua walking through the palace, shocked to see Babel, and questioning what the son of a servant was doing there. Joshua focused angrily on the portrait of the current emperor, Marcus van Brighton, and thought he would take revenge on Caesar's son the moment he seized power. Babel charged at Joshua, asking why he was ignoring him, and seeming unfocused. Joshua easily defended against his attack and was about to break Babel's hand. Babel was shocked and declared that the rumor he had defeated 3 knights was indeed true. Joshua told him he would not allow him to insult him again, gathering mana in his hand, prepared to strike him, but Duke Jifon intervened, asking what they were doing. Babel quickly bowed before his father, saying he was just greeting his brother, whom he had not seen in a long time. The Duke is surprised and looks at Joshua, who refuses to bow before him, while Jifon is shocked and says that Joshua must have gone mad for not bowing or showing any respect to the Duke. Javon becomes aggressive and approaches Joshua, telling him to bow before the Duke, or he will kill him. The Duke stops him and tells him to look into his son's eyes, which are filled with hatred and anger. Joshua says he is extremely angry with his father to the point of wanting to kill him, and every time he looks at him, he remembers his past. However, he must control himself, because his father, Duke Agines, his enemy, does not stand a chance against his current strength. Agines tells Joshua that if he is calm, he should come closer to him so he can check if he has mana or not. Babel is stunned and exclaims how Joshua, who spent his whole life in the stables cleaning horse stalls, could possibly have mana. Javon tells Agines that it's impossible for his son to have mana at such a young age. Agines insists he will verify it himself. Joshua responds by claiming he is among the 5 strongest individuals on the continent and that his sensitivity to mana is very high. He warns that all his plans will be ruined if his mana is discovered. Suddenly, the Duke holds Joshua's hand, begins to feel for the mana in his body, and is shocked. Joshua is anxious, thinking that if anything is discovered about him, he will have to rearrange all his plans again. Agines declares that Joshua does not have mana, and he is astonished. Babel rejoices, claiming he knew it all along, and Javon reiterates that it's impossible for a 9-year-old boy to have mana. Agines clarifies that he is not talking about the mana vessel specifically, but that Joshua has absolutely no mana in his body. He explains that any living being is born with a small amount of mana, but Joshua has none at all, just like the dead without any mana in their bodies. Javon suggests Joshua might have been born this way, and he mentions hearing about cursed children, but he isn't sure about that. Agines disagrees, saying he doesn't believe Joshua was born without mana. He feels a slimy, disgusting substance in place of mana but doesn't know what it is. He tells them they will monitor Joshua from now on, and informs him that he will stay with them in the main castle from today. Babel gets angry, asking how the son of a maid could stay with them. His father asks if he has any objections to his decision, and Babel is terrified, saying no. Agines tells Javon to start teaching Joshua knight techniques. If he sees he's talented, and that mana appears in him, he will teach him their family's red mana. Javon questions how they are still certain he has no mana. Agines assures him they will find out soon, and tells Joshua he will impose his ambitions on him for this year. Then, Javon takes Joshua to his room and mentions he will live there, shocked that Joshua shows no reaction. He calls him a crafty kid. Joshua notes that he changed his tone with him once the Duke walked by, and remarks that it's not important. He decides he must focus on increasing his strength, remembering his father's words and realizing he is certainly expected to succeed in all his training this year. He knows his father spends most of his time in the capital, and that he is here to rest from his work. He is puzzled by his father's change in attitude towards him, wondering if he might have discovered something even he doesn't know about himself, which terrifies him. Still, he thinks it doesn't matter because he will find out over time. Later that night, Joshua escapes from the castle and uses his mana to jump from a great distance, noting that his mana no longer hurts like it did before. However, suddenly he starts feeling a great pain, realizing the holy mana inside him is reacting with the strange material implanted within his mana vessel. He concludes that this strange substance must be demon mana, and senses a strange force trying to control both powers to prevent them from killing him. He remembers the weapon Lukia, and assumes that the power of the spear is the one controlling them. Suddenly, the guards nearby hear his voice and rush to check, but they find no one because Joshua has escaped. As he runs, Joshua thinks he needs to find the spear, believing it will solve all his current problems and help him control all the energies in his body. Next, we see the 3 knights whom Joshua defeated holding Lukia, who asks them what they want from her. They tell her that her son is the reason their ranks have fallen, and that they will kill her to take revenge on him. She tries to escape, but Lloyd strikes her, and Jord tells him to hold her still because he will kill her. Rolls tries to stop Jord, saying that Joshua would never let them if they killed her. Jord reassures him that it will be Joshua's turn afterward, and that the Duchess promised to protect them if they got rid of her. Jord tells him not to worry, and that no one will hold them accountable if they kill her. Suddenly, Joshua appears and demands they stop what they're doing. They tell him they've been waiting for him, and that they will kill his mother in front of him, and then kill him. Rolls begs them to stop what they are doing, insisting this is not the normal Joshua they know. He warns them that he will kill them all if they don't flee this place. Joshua looks at the ceiling and tells the person up there to leave. He turns to the knights and tells them he will give them one last chance before he kills them. Lloyd approaches Joshua, claiming he will be the one to kill him this time. Joshua ignores him and looks at the ceiling again, telling the hidden person to leave because they shouldn't be unaware of whom they're talking to and that they look insane. Suddenly, the hidden knight drops from the ceiling, surprising everyone as they ask who he is. This knight asks Joshua how he discovered his location, saying it's impossible for anyone normal to find him. He is able to recognize the red cross on his chest and says he is one of the knights sent by Duke Agnes. His presence means Javon sent him. The knights quickly stop. The knight approaches Joshua, saying he has heard a lot about him. Joshua releases his aura, scaring the knight and declaring that these knights attempted to harm him and his mother, so their punishment will be what? The knight is shocked by Joshua's aura and realizes that a powerful knight like him cannot even move under the pressure of his power. He tells Joshua that their punishment will be instant death. This knight swiftly attacks them. Lloyd tries to attack him, but he takes him out in seconds. Jord attempts to strike him, but the knight Ken counters his attack and takes him down too. He then goes to attack Rolls, who insists he didn't do anything and that he tried to stop them, but they didn't listen. Joshua intervenes, asking Ken not to kill him. Ken replies that this knight threatened and attempted to kill him and his mother, and thus should be punished with death now. Joshua counters that there are 3 knight teams directly under the Duke's command, and that the Red Knights are the weakest among them. This means that Ken, sent to monitor him, is surely the weakest in his group. He deduces that to defeat 3 knights so easily, Ken must be at a C rank level. Joshua asks who Ken serves, and Ken responds that he serves Duke Agnes. Joshua points out that since he serves his father, he will have to obey his commands as well. Ken looks at him, terrified, saying that he has the same terrifying eyes as the Duke. Joshua tells him to draw his sword, and Ken, following his orders, indeed draws it. Rolls thanks Joshua for saving his life, claiming he will be indebted to him for life. Joshua replies that he doesn't need thanks, especially since he won't forgive anyone who threatened him or his mother. He tells Ken that he is a clever knight, so he should understand his message, and warns him to tell the other knights and soldiers under his father what he witnessed. He declares that if any of them dare to raise their hand against his mother again, this will be their fate. He orders him to flee before he changes his mind and kills him, prompting Rolls to quickly escape the scene. Ken asks Joshua if he is really the Joshua they know because he has changed considerably. Joshua confirms that if he means the son of the maid who couldn't speak up or defend his mother, that child is as good as dead now. Ken is shocked and impressed, telling Joshua that all of the Duke's knights follow Duke Agnes's lineage, but once they reach 23 years old, they can choose their own lord to serve. He mentions that Joshua will turn 23 next year and will be able to choose his own master. He asserts that his instinct has never failed him regarding people, and he reveals that next year he will leave serving Duke Agnes and serve Joshua instead. Joshua laughs, saying that choosing him over that genius Babel means his judgment really does not fail him. Lukia, Joshua's mother, wakes from her faint and he goes to hug her, promising to protect her from now on. He vows that he won't let anyone from the past affect his future and that he does not intend to live this life as an illegitimate son of a maid, bullied by the whole world. Instead, he will be the Spearmaster Joshua, a figure everyone fears for his power. Next, we return to Agnes, speaking with Javon, who tells him that Count Rebirth is coming for a visit tomorrow, and he's not coming alone but accompanied by Vasilian's daughter. Agnes states he knows what he is planning, noting that Count Rebirth's power is weaker than his duchies, but his influence on the kingdom is significant, so it's unwise to ignore him. He mentions that his daughter is a talented sorceress who has reached the second magical circle at just 9 years old, and was born with the blessing of Mano. He figures that the Count is bringing his daughter to try to arrange a marriage with his son Babel to strengthen relations between their families. Javon adds that Babel will turn 18 in 3 years, and by then he should marry into a major family to enhance their political power. Agnes agrees but adds that they have already decided on the fiancé, aiming for Princess Charlie. He states that they have substantial power, resources, and wealth, and they need to unite their forces. Javon agrees, stating that Charlie is indeed the most suitable choice due to her family's strength and wealth. Agnes concurs, but worries that they should not let Celine slip away to anyone else, and they need to bring her power into their family as well. Javon says that the Duke's greed is unnatural, and that he wants to harness everyone's power for himself, which is why he admires his wisdom. Suddenly, Duke Agnes stands up and tells Javon that he has an idea. He could marry his son Joshua to Celine. Javon is shocked and responds that it is impossible to marry Celine, who has the Mana blessing, to Joshua, who carries the Mana curse. Then we go to Joshua, who is in a distant land at the borders of the dukedom. He says he has come to this place in his past life because his mother was buried here, and he wanted to be by her side. However, he discovered an entrance to a secret world here by chance. Joshua feels around the ground and announces that he has reached the place where he found the spear Lukia. He injures himself and lets a bit of blood fall on a magical artifact to open a portal to the secret world. Joshua enters this portal and is transported to an ancient archaeological site. As he walks around, he realizes this is not the same place he remembers from his past life, as it isn't in ruins. He recalls that when he first entered this place, everything was intact, and Lukia's spear was bound by chains in front of him. When Joshua enters the main room, he doesn't find the spear Lukia, but finds a metal piece in its place. He is puzzled by what's happening and tries to grasp the metal piece, but its magic activates and transports him to its spiritual world. Joshua is stunned and has no idea what just happened. Suddenly, the metal piece appears behind him, and he is surprised to ask what it is. It responds, saying, "I am the spear of the Demon King Lukia." Joshua is shocked and asks how it is the spear of the Demon King, realizing that the spear he wielded in his past life belonged to the Demon King. He questions what changed its appearance and thinks it might be possible for the past to change with his return. Lukia tells him that he doesn't have much time to talk and states that the two powers within her are fighting each other. If they continue in this state, they will kill him. The only way for him to control these powers without dying is to train and increase his strength until he reaches the 4th level of the magical spear art. Joshua is surprised and mentions that he created this art in his previous life, using his mana combined with his spear skills to produce the magical spear art. He recalls that their idea was a sword and the greatest weapon, while the spear was considered a trivial weapon. Still, he proved them wrong to the extent that none of them could even match him equally, even when he was still at the 4th level of the magical spear art. He states that the maximum power a swordsman can reach is swordmaster level A, where one can form a sword with their mana. Those are called swordmasters, but the sword art itself is divided into 8 stages. He was the strongest knight on the continent when he reached the 5th stage, and currently, if he reaches the 4th stage, he will be stronger than a level B knight. Joshua believes it would be easy for him to reach his full strength again as he has done it before, but his challenge will be time. He notes that the greatest problem he faces now is mana, as the holy mana and the demon mana inside him are fighting each other. Lukia reassures him that he can use mana in limited quantities as long as she is with him, and she will protect Joshua. He is surprised and happy that he can train with mana again. Lukia tells him to start training to regain his former power, and once he becomes a master of the spear again, her role will be over, and she will begin searching for another weapon aside from him. Joshua doesn't understand her statement and asks what she means, but she disappears, telling him to regain his strength quickly. Joshua holds Lukia and mentions that he has many questions that need answering, but for now, as long as he has Lukia, he can use mana and train with it. He thinks that his method of training mana is rare and powerful, and no one knows anything about it. He starts gathering mana from the surrounding atmosphere, declaring that he is now opening the first circle in the magical spear art. Indeed, he manages to open the first circle for Master Spear, asserting that he can now concentrate mana in his spear and use it. He successfully draws the mana and channels it into his weapon, demolishing the area around him. He declares that this is just the beginning, and his revenge will begin now. Next, we go to the party at Duke Aeginus's palace. The Duke arrives with Jivon, who is surprised to see unexpected guests today. Charlie Ponte welcomes him, mentioning that it has been a long time since she last saw him. Aeginus asks her what she is doing in the palace at this late hour. Charlie's assistant apologizes, explaining she could not wait until the party began, which is why she arrived early. Aeginus reassures him that there is no need to apologize. Instead, he wanted to see her since he couldn't meet her in the capital. He mentions that Count Kukas is the head of Duke Ponte's special attendants, and that no trade or money could pass under Duke Ponte without going through Kukas first. Aeginus offers Kukas to join his family and remain a subordinate, while Charlie comments that he is still as greedy as she knows him, attempting to steal treasures and followers from other families as usual. Kukas tries to silence Charlie, urging her to speak respectfully. Aeginus tells him to let it go, since he is used to such outbursts from her. He found it strange that she had recently spoken to him with respect. Charlie mentions she heard that Babel has become a rank C knight, and that she might start recruiting him into her knights soon. Kukas shouts at her, demanding she speak respectfully about the Duke's son. He apologizes to the Duke, saying that she behaves like a child. Aeginus dismisses it, saying he likes her style. Next, Aeginus welcomes Count Ribereka and his daughter Celine. He remarks he hadn't noticed they were at the party. Celine introduces herself to the Duke and greets him. Charlie becomes irritated, asking what the Count and his daughter are doing there. Kukas tells her to control herself and not cause trouble. Charlie says she indeed heard that the Duke's illegitimate son Joshua defeated 3 squad leaders. Kukas yells at her to be quiet to avoid causing trouble between the families. She insists on calming down, expressing her desire to know the truth. Jivan intervenes, asserting that all of this is mere gossip and that Joshua is not only weak but also cursed with the Mana curse, making it impossible for him to defeat 3 squad leaders on his own. Count Rebirth interjects, asking if Joshua truly was born with the Mana curse. Agenis claims he doesn't know and needs help on this matter, as he believes Rebirth is one of the few mages in the kingdom capable of reaching the 5th magical circle, implying his sensitivity to mana is certainly greater and could identify Joshua's problem. Rebirth sees this as an opportunity for cooperation between their families and agrees to Agenis' offer. Jivan tells Agenis they should resolve Joshua's issue before he travels to the capital, and they need to confirm if he indeed carries the mana curse. Agenis asks how Jivan plans to do this. Jivan explains that he will place knights to monitor Joshua. Agenis cannot believe Jivan wants to assign the Red Knights to watch him, arguing that he is just a 9-year-old child who doesn't merit such observation. Jivan insists that if Joshua is powerful like the rumors, he should be monitored. He assures that a knight under his command is already watching him, and that he is confident in his plan. Afterward, Jivan meets Kin in the special office and asks him about what happened to the squad leaders. Kin responds that he executed them on the spot. Jivan tells him that he has complete authority over the squad leaders because he is above them, but he acted hastily. Kin explains that they were trying to harm the Duke's wife. Jivan is shocked and asks how that happened, feeling very annoyed, questioning how they dared to act like that towards Duke Vanessa. Kin clarifies that it wasn't Duke Vanessa but Lukia. Jivan calms down and asks, did he kill the squad leaders for just a maid? Kin reminds him that she is also considered the Duke's wife, and insulting or harming her is viewed as insulting the Duke. If Jivan believes he made a mistake in his decision, he can punish him. Jivan brushes it off, saying, it's not important. He wants Kin on a new mission, instructing him to duel Joshua today. Kin is surprised and asks why. Jivan explains that they want to confirm whether Joshua is truly born with the Mana curse or not, to disprove the rampant rumors. The Duke still places his hopes on Joshua, and they need to prove to the Duke that he is weak so Babel can receive all of his attention and support. Kin counters that he believes Joshua is stronger than Babel. Jivan yells at him that it's impossible, stating that Babel is a genius compared to anyone else and cannot be compared to a disabled child like Joshua. Kin asserts that he has not seen Joshua's true form, explaining that he is like a meteor that will fall to earth and destroy them all. Jivan tells him that he needs him in battle, especially against Joshua, and to inject him with some of his mana. If Joshua truly has the mana curse, his body should reject that mana. He warns that mana is like poison for cursed individuals, and he will die within 10 days if he actually has the mana curse. Kin is shocked by this and acknowledges he knew Jivan supported Babel, but did not expect him to take such dirty actions. Kin heads to the training grounds before the duel, asserting that even if it's an order from the direct superior, he won't execute it. He refuses to harm Joshua, proclaiming him to be the future lord, and he has decided to protect him. Joshua approaches Kin and mentions he has heard that they'll be dueling. Kin acknowledges this, stating it's the Duke's orders to test his strength. Joshua implies that his father must have noticed something different about him, concluding that he will implement his plan now. Kin tells Joshua to relax, promising he doesn't intend to fight seriously so that Joshua won't get hurt. Joshua yells at him, questioning whether he is underestimating him. He states that he understands knights have the right to choose their masters, but he also has the right to choose his followers. He won't choose Kin if he thinks his master is weak and doesn't want to fight him seriously. If Kin wants to be one of his knights, he must fight him with sincerity. At this moment, the Duke arrives with the Count and Charlotte. Kin greets the Duke, while Jivan glances at Joshua, commenting that he still does not respect the Duke. Suddenly, Joshua approaches to greet his father, shocking Jivan. Agenis reminds Joshua that he doesn't recall teaching him the etiquette of nobility, but he's pleased that he knows it on his own. Joshua asserts that he can learn anything by himself, aware that he was brought here today for a duel to test his strength. Jivan intervenes, claiming he's mistaken, and that the Duke isn't interested in testing his strength but wants to reassure himself regarding Joshua out of concern, particularly wanting to see if he has a disability that needs treatment. Joshua retorts that Jivan is trying to prove his weakness so that Babel can get all the support from their father, and that he is clearly planning to kill him. The Duke asks Joshua and Kin if they are ready. Kin confirms his readiness, and the Duke clarifies to Kin that he misunderstood, explaining that it is not him who will duel Joshua but his second son, Babel. Babel steps forward, proclaiming himself the elder brother, and asserting it is his right to test the strength of his younger brother. Agenis informs them that this duel will be a training match, thus they will use wooden swords. Babel agrees, adding that he won't exert much effort to fight someone weak like Joshua. In response, Joshua suggests that Babel and Jivan want him dead, which is why they have put on this show. Therefore, he he will give them a show of his own. Grabbing a large wooden stick, he breaks it and declares that he will use it for the battle. They are astonished while Charlie laughs at him, calling him crazy. Jivan approaches Joshua, criticizing him for mocking them, saying it's impossible to fight someone with wooden sticks. Agenus interrupts him, asking Joshua if he is sure about this. Joshua responds affirmatively, and the Duke approves, instructing everyone to clear the fighting area and warning Babel that he is prohibited from using mana in this fight. Babel says not to worry, asserting that he won't waste his strength on someone weak like Joshua. Babel asks Joshua what he will do with a piece of wood in front of him, and his appearance is getting used to it because of cleaning the stables. The Duke tells him to stop talking, and they begin fighting. Babel rushes at Joshua with all his strength, but Joshua defends against his attack and tries to hit him. Babel avoids Joshua's move and says he's learning a new trick, but it won't work against him. He tries to attack Joshua's leg, and Joshua tells him he's weak, and that even though he is a knight of rank C, all he has is speed. Babel attacks Joshua's hand and manages to hit him. Babel gets angry and tells Joshua not to overstep his bounds, calling him just a bastard child, and that he won't forgive him. He charges at him again, but Joshua is able to hit him as well before Babel reaches him. Joshua is surprised that Babel could withstand his blow, and thinks he's not as weak as expected. Babel gets furious and uses his mana, declaring he won't forgive Joshua. Agenus tells Babel to stop what he's doing immediately, but Babel continues his attack, resulting in a massive explosion of mana. They are astonished and look on as Babel's sword shatters, and Joshua begins using his mana against him. Rebecca is shocked and says Joshua can use mana, while Babel can hardly believe Joshua is capable of using it. Pondering what his father would do if he knew Joshua was stronger than him, Babel charges at Joshua again, saying he will be the heir of the dukedom. Joshua responds that it doesn't matter whether he's an heir or not, as the dukedom will be destroyed within 10 years due to the internal war in the kingdom. But if Babel manages to take control of the dukedom before the war, he will change events, which is why he will be the heir of this dukedom. He attacks Babel with his own mana, and Duke Agenus uses his massive mana to stop them, declaring that the fight is over and he won't forgive either of them for ignoring his words. Jivan is shocked, mentioning that Joshua can use his mana at the age of 9, something he has never heard of in history. Duke Agenus tells Jivan that they should be convinced of Joshua's strength now. Jivan agrees, but says he has never seen this type of mana before. Rebecca tells Agenus that Joshua truly used mana, which is much stronger than Babel's, but he's using a type of mana that is unfamiliar to him, especially its strong focus. Charlie is amazed, saying she didn't expect the servant's son to be this strong. Agenus tells Joshua he's impressed that he can use mana at such a young age. Jivan tries to stop Agenus, saying Joshua shouldn't get involved in the succession war, but Agenus yells at him to be mindful of his words. Agenus tells Joshua he wants to talk to him about something, so he will visit him in his room tonight. Everyone is shocked, noting that Agenus has never invited anyone to his room before. Babel is stunned, exclaiming that it's impossible that the servant's son has surpassed him in every way. Joshua teases Babel, telling his father he will fulfill his request. Then Charlie, who is in her room with Kokos, tells him she didn't expect the servant's son to be this strong and capable of using mana, and she is very excited. She tells Kokos she has made up her mind, and he asks her what her decision is. She announces she has decided to make Joshua her king. We then move to Jivan, talking to Venice, Agenus's wife, and the sister of the current king. She asks him what happened to her son Babel, and Jivan informs her that he lost in the duel against Joshua. She hits him again, questioning how he allowed this to happen, saying she heard Joshua is using mana and is even better at it than Babel. She inquires what the Duke intends to do about Joshua, and he responds that the Duke intends to take him with him to the capital. She asks why, and he explains it's because he acknowledged Joshua's talent, and he wants to keep an eye on him to protect him. Jivan tells her that things will only get worse for them from here on out, and she replies that all this happened because of him, that he failed in his mission. Jivan assures her not to worry, saying he has a solution to their problem. She asks what it is, and he informs her that Duke Agenus will definitely announce to the entire kingdom that his son Joshua has become a level C mana user. She asks why he would do that, suggesting it would be better to hide it until Joshua is older. Jivan explains that there are many witnesses to the battle, including Count Rebecca and Count Kokos, and they will spread the news regardless of the Duke's knowledge. He adds that as soon as the news spreads, Joshua will have to face a test against a royal knight to officially rank up to a level C knight. He needs to prove his strength in an official battle against that knight. Venice is delighted and agrees, saying Jifan's reasoning is correct, and she will speak to her uncle and send a royal knight to defeat him. Next, we find Joshua meeting his father Agonist in his room, greeting him as usual. His father asks him who he is, and Joshua is surprised by the question, replying that he is Joshua. Agonist remarks that he has changed a lot since the last time he knew him. Joshua states that time changes people. Agonist asks him if he hates him or holds a grudge against him for how he treated him. Joshua reassures him that he does not, and understands that he acted that way due to the surveillance by the royal family. However, despite this, he has a request. His father is surprised and asks what the request is, wondering if he wants him to apologize for how he treated him and his mother. Joshua responds that apologies are unnecessary in their world, and instead, his request relates to the decision he made to take him to the royal capital. Agonist says he already knows where Joshua is, implying he wants to go. Joshua confirms he is sure his father will take him with him. Agonist asks why, and Joshua explains that Babel was supposed to be his successor, but his appearance changes everything in the family. He cannot leave him alone in the palace to avoid problems with the Duchess, so he will distance him from them. Agonist is astonished by this response and acknowledges that Joshua is not only talented but also smart. He reflects that had he known earlier, Joshua would have been unmatched. Joshua continues, saying he aims to hide Babel from the grasp of the kingdom to avoid losing such great talent like him. He believes that if he can surpass Babel's strength, he can reclaim the family's power and prestige in front of the royal family to the extent that they won't be able to oppose their decisions again. Agonist remarks that if Joshua speaks with such confidence, he must be sure of his strength. Joshua assures him he is confident in his abilities and will not let him down. Agonist questions Joshua's confidence and asks if he has any solutions to the two problems he mentioned earlier. Joshua suggests the natural solution is to go to the capital and enroll in the Royal Academy. He explains that all noble families' children can enter this academy and graduate early if they are talented like Babel. He elaborates that the royal family created the academy to discover talents and instill loyalty in them. Agonist agrees that what Joshua says makes sense. He decides to take Joshua with him to the capital and will personally teach him swordsmanship in his spare time. Joshua expresses disbelief that one of the 5 swordmasters would offer to train him personally, but says it doesn't matter. He states he isn't planning to use a sword and prefers a spear. His father is stunned and unleashes all his power, saying he was worried when Joshua chose the wooden stick for the duel, but now he understands why. He declares it's impossible for him to remain a spear wielder. Joshua is shocked by the massive amount of mana his father releases, saying it puts pressure on him, but as long as Agonist is proud of the sword, he will also take pride in the spear. He releases his mana and manages to counter his father's strength. He tells Agonist he will be the strongest knight in history and will aim his spear at anyone who stands in his way, even to the 9 stars. His father is astonished by this claim and tells him that being confident enough to think he can defeat the 9 stars is quite arrogant. Agonist acknowledges that since Joshua believes in himself this much, he should see his strength for himself. Joshua asks what he means, and Agonist says since he compares himself to the 9 stars, he will duel him, seeing as he is one of the 9 stars. Joshua finds the prospect of facing his father exciting, and he shouldn't miss the opportunity. When Agonist asks if he agrees, Joshua confirms he's in, but with a condition. Agonist asks what it is, and Joshua replies that if he succeeds in the test, he wants his father to grant him a request. Agonist agrees, stating that if Joshua passes the test, he will let him use the spear and fulfill any request, but if he fails, he will have to follow his orders without debate and go to the academy to learn swordsmanship. We then move to Duchess Venice, who is speaking to someone in the royal palace, saying she contacted him because he is the only person she can trust in the palace. She wants him to do her a favor to eliminate one of her enemies. Afterward, Joshua exits his father's room, feeling happy and remarking that this is expected from someone who has reached the level of swordmaster, while his body still tingles from their encounter. He encounters his brother Babel, who says he wants to talk to him. Joshua tells him he is too busy and doesn't want to speak with him, but Babel stops him, insisting that he wants to challenge him to a duel. Looking into Babel's eyes, Joshua notices they are different from before, filled with excitement and a desire to win, to reclaim the best in the family. Joshua agrees to the challenge but warns Babel not to regret it. Afterwards, he heads to the royal capital, to the royal palace of Avalon, where we see Emperor Marcus listening to his intelligence report. He expresses disbelief that a new talent has emerged in the empire, particularly within the family of Duke Agenus. He questions his attendant, who is specifically asked about his sister Venice, as she was the one trying to keep this child hidden from him. The attendant tells him that the child is not Venice's son, but the son of a concubine. The emperor is shocked and says that Duke Agenus has a great talent like Babel, but the emergence of such talent within his own ranks makes makes him very envious. The attendant points out that the Duke's children are talented too, but Marcus insists that while they have some ability to inherit the empire, none of them can lead the army, especially as the strongest knight in the kingdom. The attendant mentions that the emperor is underestimating his children significantly, despite their talents, because he has very high standards when it comes to evaluating skills, given that he is one of the masters of swords on the continent. For this reason, he is always greedy for the greatest number of talents. The emperor remarks that, as long as Duke Aegenis doesn't want to hide his second son any longer, his ability must be just like Babel's. However, the attendant informs him that he has received news that this child defeated his brother Babel in an official duel. The emperor is astonished and asks how old the child is, to which the attendant replies he is 9 years old. The emperor is stunned and says that a child of 9 has defeated the greatest talent in the empire and made him kneel before him. He laughs and says that this boy has piqued his interest and he wants to see him personally. The attendant mentions that Duke Aegenis has also begun to make his moves, requesting royal knights for the child's training. According to reports, this child will reach the level of a C-rank knight. The emperor expresses his excitement at the idea of a C-rank knight at just 9 years old and is eager to meet him. The attendant asks if he intends to go himself to assess the child's strength, as his actions would imply direct support and care for the child. The emperor replies no, that he cannot move and see him personally since there are many enemies watching and waiting for him to make a mistake. However, he intends to send one of his royal children to evaluate the child's strength himself, ensuring he verifies the child's abilities. We then shift to the battle between Joshua and Babel, where Joshua attacks Babel with his mana-covered hand, sending him flying. Babel is shocked, saying he isn't using his weapon but only his mana-covered hand, yet the force of his attack is unbelievable. Joshua tells him he knows this and is thinking about what to do, adding that he will show him his frightening combat strength. Babel gets furious and attacks him with his mana sword, demanding he stop mocking him. Joshua retaliates with a mana explosion, sending Babel flying again. Babel is stunned, realizing Joshua managed to channel all his mana into just his hand, and though he doesn't want to admit it, Joshua is much stronger than him. Joshua approaches him and asks if he's angry, saying that if he is, he should be stronger to rid himself of the humiliation he is currently facing. He adds that he could kill him for insulting him and his mother, but he will let him live because of the weakness and desire to win reflected in his eyes. However, if his behavior doesn't change in the future, he will continue to beat him until he can't hold a sword again. Joshua walks away, reminding Babel not to forget the significant gap in their strength. The next morning, Joshua wakes up in pain, realizing he used a large amount of mana yesterday fighting Babel. Despite having improved his mana control by retrieving Loki's weapon, the side effects are still present in his body. Suddenly, he hears a knock on his door, opens it, and wonders who it is, only to find Charlie standing there. She tells him she was eager to meet him, and when he asks who she is, she introduces herself as the daughter of Duke Ponti. She mentions she heard he is 3 years younger than her, so she won't treat him formally. She enters his room, suggesting he can call her his older sister if he wishes. Joshua stops her before she can enter, telling her to get away from him and slams the door in her face. She is shocked by his behavior, while Joshua is surprised that the first thing he sees in the early morning is this crazy girl. Suddenly, there's another knock at the door, and he angrily yells at whoever is knocking, thinking it's Charlotte again, but it turns out to be Ken, who is frightened of him. Joshua apologizes, explaining he thought Ken was an annoying person, and asks if he completed the request he assigned to him. Ken says he did it, but he doesn't know the purpose of what he's done. Joshua reassures him not to worry and that he should trust his lord. Next, we go to the grand training hall in the ducal palace, where we see 2 squad leaders approaching Rolls, telling him they haven't seen Jordan and Lloyd for a long time and wonder where they have gone. The second knight informs him that they heard rumors they were killed by Joshua. Rolls remains silent, and they notice his unusual reaction. They comment on how arrogant they used to be and how they bullied Joshua and his mother all the time, but now he seems strangely fearful for some reason. One knight asks his companion who called the meeting of the squad leaders, and the other one replies that it was one of the members of the Red Squad who requested all the squad leaders to gather. Ken arrives with Joshua, and everyone stands to greet him. Rolls is shocked, asking what Joshua is doing here. Ken tells all the squad leaders that today's training will be led by Joshua. Joshua says he is the one who requested to gather them today, explaining that the squad leaders will be at the forefront of the Duke's army in case of war, so they must be strong and ready. That's why he came personally to train them, but all the squad leaders mock him, saying it's impossible for a child, especially the son of a maid, to train them. Ken asks Joshua if he's sure about this since the squad leaders are strong. The squad leaders leaders continue to ridicule Joshua, insisting he will surely get hurt in their fight. Joshua takes his spear and approaches Rolls, asking if he thinks he will get hurt like they say. Rolls replies that it's impossible as he is strong. Joshua tells him to be quiet, asserting that given the squad leader's responses, he hasn't told them anything about what he has said. Rolls apologizes, stating he is sorry, and Joshua reminds him that he previously told him he doesn't forgive anyone. He gave him a chance when he didn't kill him the first time, but now he will end up like Jordan and Lloyd. The squad leaders are shocked, realizing the rumors were true that Joshua actually took down Jordan and Lloyd. Rolls begs Joshua for a chance as well. Joshua tells him that his last chance, instead of killing him outright, is to duel him. If he wins, he will let him live. Rolls, having no other option, agrees to try and attack Joshua, but Joshua uses his lightning spear to deliver a powerful blow, defeating him. The squad leaders are stunned that Joshua is capable of using mana. Joshua tells them they are foolish for judging an opponent merely by their appearance, and offers any of them who are uncertain about his strength the chance to face him to confirm for themselves. The squad leaders approach Joshua to acknowledge his strength, admitting it. Ken watches everything unfold, realizing Joshua's plan worked and that he had confidence in him. Meanwhile, Charlie sits sadly in her room due to Joshua's actions when Kokus rushes in, claiming he has good news. She dismissively tells him she's not interested. Kokus is surprised and asks if she's upset since she's been down all morning. He inquires if something happened, and she tells him to leave her alone. Kokus then says he will fulfill her father's orders, and admits he had forgotten the Duke's instructions and will go carry them out immediately, stating they came specifically to follow her father's command. Charlotte, feeling down, says she wants to see Joshua. We then see Duke Aegenis asking Joshua why he punished Rolls in front of all the squad leaders. Joshua explains that he was trying to harm and insult his mother, which is why he exercised his legal right, as he insulted a noble. The Duke mentions he would have severed his head had he known earlier, but now he has lost 3 squad leaders because of this. Joshua reassures him not to worry, claiming he had planned for everything. The Duke says he doesn't understand, to which Joshua explains that just 2 days ago, he was merely the child of a concubine working in the stables, and everyone bullied him. It was impossible for him to suddenly become the pride of the duchy and gain the soldiers' trust. Therefore, he needed to use his strength against them to instill fear and awe within their hearts. With this, no squad leader or anyone else would ever dare to insult him or his mother. The Duke acknowledges that there is reason in his words, and tells him to prepare to receive the royal knights who have come to evaluate his strength. We then see Armstrong, the commander of the Golden Black Squad for the duchy, stating that he had never imagined that 2 of the Duke's sons would reach C-rank knights while still so young. Jivan gets furious, pointing out that one of them is the son of a concubine, mocking him, and says he is surely upset because Babel lost to Joshua. Jivan gets angry, demanding to know where he heard that. Just then, Duke Aegenis and Joshua arrive, and Aegenis tells them to stop arguing. Armstrong greets the Duke and then looks at Joshua, commenting that he doesn't seem to possess great strength as they say. Suddenly, a delegation of royal knights arrives at the palace, leaving Jivan stunned as he wonders who is accompanying the royal knights to send a full squad of knights to protect him. At that moment, the Empire's 4th prince and Joshua's treacherous friend, Caesar, appears. Joshua is furious upon seeing him, saying he never imagined the opportunity for revenge would come this early. A group of royal knights goes before a little while, and they are defeated by a royal knight named the Joker, who is the captain of the 1st Battalion of Royal Knights. They ask him to stop, but he continues torturing them. At this time, Venice's uncle arrives and says he knew he would find him here, and that if he continued torturing the recruits, no knight would agree to join the Royal Knights again. He expresses that he is biased against them because they are slightly arrogant with the little mana they possess. He asks why he is here, and the Joker tells him he has a mission from the Duchess to complete. We return to the present with the Joker standing in front of Joshua and his group, stating that Venice's orders are to ensure Joshua will never wield a sword again in his life. Caesar tells Joshua he has heard many rumors about him, and Joshua gets angry and doesn't respond. Caesar's assistant, the wizard Evergrande, advises Joshua to show respect to the 4th prince. Joshua counters that there shouldn't be 2 sons in the kingdom, and that they all serve only one lord, the emperor. He is not obliged to show respect to a weak prince who might not even last as emperor. Knight Brown advances with his soldiers, stating that Joshua has lost his mind, that he's just a child born of a concubine who lived in a horse stable, and they would never let him speak that way to a prince. The commander of the Golden Squad, Armstrong intervenes, warning that if Brown comes any closer to Joshua, he will kill them all. Brown asks him if he defends the son of a concubine, and Armstrong replies that Joshua is a member of the Duke's family and his loyalty lies with him. Duke Agonies intervenes with his massive mana to stop them, asking if they want to die. Brown is shocked by the amount of mana and says he expected nothing less than one of the 9 stars. Agonies tells Joshua that his words are the reason for all this trouble, and instructs him to apologize to the prince. Caesar responds that it's not important and that he's not obliged to apologize, and that his words are true. Evergrande warns that if Joshua doesn't apologize, the royal family will lose its dignity in front of everyone. Caesar tells him not to worry, stating that he has brought the insult upon himself just because he is weak, and that his words are correct. The one who deserves all the respect is the emperor. Then he tells Joshua to succeed in the test, so that he doesn't become a weak prince like him, who doesn't deserve respect. Joshua replies that he remembers his deceitful way of speaking well, but will not allow him to overcome him in this life, and he will cut off his head as soon as he reaches the peak of his glory. He tells Caesar he is ready to accept the challenge, especially if he wants to face him. The Night Joker intervenes, saying Joshua is still insulting the prince, and he will not forgive him. He tells Caesar that he should be the one to evaluate Joshua in the knight's test, and Caesar agrees, stating he is the best one for the job, as he is a knight of rank B, and can control his power and judge people well. The Joker laughs and says he will give Joshua a final and ultimate evaluation. The two prepare for a duel in the training ground of the Duke's palace. The Joker asks Joshua if he's joking, saying it's impossible he only has a metal stick to duel with. He insists that he must not think of them as trivial, as rumors describe him as talented. Joshua responds that he talks too much and that the appearances of the royal knights are chosen based on their abilities in speech, not in combat. The Joker warns him that he will regret his words and insults, but before he can continue, Joshua attacks him with a mana spear. The Joker quickly evades the attack, shocked by the amount of mana, stating he has never seen this mana before. He blocks Joshua's attack, saying it's not important and that he will close the distance to defeat him. Joshua knows his plan and states that many have tried to close the distance to defeat him, but failed. He uses the spear and launches a direct attack on the Joker, who deflects it at the last moment. Joshua continues to attack him from all directions, with the Joker retreating against his assaults. Caesar observes that Joshua is very strong and that he can fight against a knight of rank B effectively, putting pressure on him. Brown explains that the Joker is lowering his power level to match Joshua's strength, but his words are indeed true since Joshua has the upper hand against the Joker in terms of techniques, and moreover, his spear fighting style is very powerful. As the Joker is blocking Joshua's attacks, he states that the situation is very bad, and if he cannot execute Venice's orders, his head will be on the line. He resolves to use all his strength, while Joshua remarks that this is expected from a knight of rank B and that he can handle his strong attacks. The Joker uses all his power, stating that the only one who can stop his attack on Joshua is Agonies, but he won't be able to do so because of his great speed. He charges at Joshua with another direct attack, and Joshua is seriously injured from the blow. Armstrong tells the Duke that the Joker is using all his power at rank B, which is not allowed, and that Joshua is in danger and must be stopped. Agonies tells him not to worry and to pay attention. The Joker attacks Joshua once again, stating that he blocked his attack only because he concentrated his mana at a single point, but he can't do that again. He continues his attack on Joshua, saying it is useless, and that his mana will not be enough for him to defend against him. Brown asks the Joker what he is doing, and tells him to stop at once. The Joker attacks Joshua, resulting in a massive mana explosion that stuns everyone present. The Joker is shocked, saying that a great mana has appeared, which forced him to retreat, and not understanding what happened. Joshua reveals that he summoned the true form of the spear, Lukia, to block his attack. We see moments before this when the Joker charged at Joshua, and Joshua states that he cannot block that attack with his current strength. The Joker claims that the impact of his mana against Joshua's lesser mana will destroy his body from the inside, thereby fulfilling Venice's orders. Joshua acknowledges this move is dangerous for him, but he must do it to defend against his attack. He summons the spear, Lukia, in its true form to block the Joker's attack. Gifon is shocked, saying Joshua has a magical tool, and Caesar tells Brown to stop the fight. As they have seen Joshua's strength, it's truly astonishing. Joshua continues to mock the Joker, asking what he thinks of his power after effortlessly blocking his strongest attacks. The Joker replies that he does not know what Joshua did, but he will kill him. Brown interjects that the duel has ended, and that Joshua's evaluation is complete. He turns to Joshua, stating he did not expect a knight of rank C to block the strongest attack from an expert knight of rank B. When they were testing Babel, they were not as impressed with his strength as they are with Joshua now, noting that Joshua's talent is rare. Brown approaches Joshua, announcing his promotion to rank C Knight. Joshua replies that he is not interested in ranks or anything because he will not serve the Emperor, but he is currently unable to move because all the mana in his body has run out. Caesar congratulates Joshua on his victory, and Joshua expresses that he does not want to show his weakness or collapse from exhaustion in front of them. Instead, he intends to make them all suffer for what they did to him in his previous life. Agonies approaches Joshua, asking if he is alright. Joshua looks at him and says he has never seen that look on his father's face before. He reassures Agonies not to worry, takes the Emperor's sword, and declares the birth of the youngest mana user in the world. We then move to a meeting with Duke Agonis and his followers. Agonies inquires about their reports, and Knight Armstrong says his soldiers from the expedition returned quickly. Count Anil is surprised and asks why, and Armstrong explains that they received reports from the northern regions indicating an abnormal increase in the number of monsters, and the Knights were unable to deal with all these numbers. Worse still, the Black Ghoul appeared alongside the other monsters, known for living deep within the Black Forests and considered stronger than forest monsters. They are renowned for their overwhelming strength, capable of killing creatures effortlessly. Even Knights of rank B and level 4 wizards struggle against them easily. Everyone present is shocked and acknowledges that this news is alarming. As if these monsters attack their cities, it will be a serious problem. Agonies tells them not to worry, stating he will go eliminate them himself, and asks Armstrong for the second report. Armstrong reveals that the report concerns the 5th Duke Pontea's family. Agonies is taken aback, realizing this report must relate to the presence of Charlie and Cocos in their palace. He instructs Armstrong to inform him of the report after the meeting, and inquires if they have any other reports. Giffon states that he does, and mentions he has a report concerning his son Joshua. Everyone expresses that they've heard the news that Joshua surpassed his brother Babel, and has become the youngest rank C Knight on the continent, which is great news for them. Giffon mentions that Joshua was forgotten for a long time, and no one cared about him since he couldn't use mana. Yet, how did he suddenly start using mana and become strong enough to become a rank C Knight? It cannot be an innate talent. Count Anil admits he does not understand what he means. Giffon theorizes that Joshua might be using demonic energy, claiming it's impossible for him to gain such strength in a short time. Armstrong tells him to stop with the fantasies, asserting that all this is due to Joshua being humiliated in front of everyone. Giffon disagrees, asking him about the weapon Joshua wields, insisting that everyone saw it, a magical weapon capable of changing its form and filled with magical energy. No one in history has heard of a magical spear before, and when the Joker attempted his last attack on Joshua, he sensed a demonic energy from him. Everyone grows concerned, stating that if he truly is using demonic energy, that will become a problem, and the royal family will fight against them. Count Anil advises the Duke that they must uncover the truth as soon as possible, rather than risk it. Giffon suggests they should send him to a remote area to verify if he holds demonic power or not. Suddenly, Joshua enters the meeting room, surprising everyone. He approaches Giffon, mocking him regarding his words about demonic energy, asking why he is so jealous of his strength to the point where he won't test it himself. Giffon, taken aback by his comments, Joshua offers once more to duel him to confirm for himself. Giffon responds that he cannot challenge him in front of the Duke, as he knows if he makes a mistake, the Duke will kill him, and if he loses, he will lose his position as well. Joshua inquires why he hesitates. Especially since he is one of their best knights, he shouldn't hesitate. Giffon gets agitated and releases his mana, stating he feels insulted by Joshua's words. Joshua counters by using his own mana and asks him if he intends to retaliate against the insult. The Duke interrupts them, reminding Giffon he has forgotten something significant, that there is someone present who can judge them better than they can. Armstrong confirms this, stating that the wizard Evergrande from the Wizard's Tower was indeed present with them, and if Joshua had genuinely used demonic energy, he would have been able to notice it. The Duke tells them that with this, they have cleared Giffon's accusation, and inquires if there are any objections to his ruling. They all respond no, and Agonies tells Joshua that everyone's suspicions regarding him have not yet dissipated. Everyone is surprised by this substantial increase in his strength, and even he doubts it. To truly prove whether this power is special or not, he intends to take it with him to the Dark Forests. Meanwhile, the council members ask Duke Aeginus if he is sure about what he wants to do, that it's supposed to be his knights who clear that forest, and that he shouldn't risk himself. Armstrong tells Agonis that he will send his strongest knights to deal with the monsters in his stead, but Agonis reassures them that he doesn't want them to worry about him and that he can handle the monsters easily. He mentions he plans to send Joshua to the Royal Academy after they return, acknowledging everyone's doubts about Joshua, but according to his family's laws, he has to give him a chance to rule as well. Gyfin gets tense and says that if that talented brat enters the academy and comes back, his power would be so great that no one would be able to touch him. This way, Babel will lose his position as the family heir, and he needs to find a way to destroy Joshua before that happens. Joshua tells Ageenis that he has a request, and when asked what it is, he expresses his desire to take his mother with him to the capital when he enters the academy. Gyfin quickly interrupts, saying that this request is impossible, and that Lady Venetia will never allow him to take his mother to the capital. Joshua asks him what he means by that. Does it imply that Venetia must first approve Ageenis' decisions? Gyfin is shocked and says that if he answered yes, it would mean Venetia controls Duke Ageenis, and he could be executed on the spot. This brat is using his intelligence against him. Gyfin tells Ageenis that he was only worried about rumors spreading that he plans to take Lukia to the capital, leaving the Duchess here at the palace. Ageenis claims he wasn't waiting for Gyfin's suggestion, then tells Joshua that he will allow him to take his mother to the capital. Joshua thanks him, and Ageenis is happy, stating that Joshua is very talented and that Babel cannot match his level. Ageenis then asks everyone if anyone disagrees with his decisions, and they all say no. He tells them that's good, and says he will return to his office. He instructs Armstrong to bring him the soldiers who withdrew from the Black Forest for questioning, and to also prepare a report on the forest. He tells Joshua to join the meeting as he wants to speak with him. Joshua agrees when suddenly Babel arrives, asking them to wait. Ageenis asks Babel why he is late for the meeting. Babel apologizes, saying he needed time to think. Ageenis is surprised, noting that his son Babel has changed from before, and he is proud of him. Ageenis then asks Babel what he wants. Babel says he needs to talk to Joshua. Joshua asks what he wants to discuss, while Gyfin becomes irate and tells Joshua that Babel outranks him and that he should speak with respect. Joshua questions whether Gyfin is Babel's spokesperson, to which Gyfin replies no. Joshua then points out that it's been a long time since he saw him speaking as if he were Babel's nanny. Gyfin should be Duke Ageenis' knight and should only speak in his defense. He states that all knights in the duchy should prove themselves through their skills, but Babel is the only one who reached his position without any effort and shouldn't speak about stature. Gyfin insists he is wrong, claiming he was just trying to teach him the etiquette of speaking to someone of a higher rank, but Joshua argues that higher rank is determined only by skill, and that he does not respect anyone weaker than himself, like Gyfin. This greatly angers Gyfin. Babel stops him, stating that he's fine and does not need Gyfin's defense, and Joshua's words are indeed correct. Ageenis is surprised by Babel's statement, noting that he is no longer just an arrogant brat from the past. Babel expresses his intention to prove himself as he said, and that he will not keep looking at Joshua while he surpasses him. Joshua remarks that his eyes are different now, and that he is now a true knight. Babel asks Ageenis for a request, wanting him to remove him from his position as the heir to the duchy. Everyone present is shocked and wonders how he plans to give up his inheritance. Ageenis asks if he has lost faith in himself after seeing his brother's monstrous strength. Babel insists he has not, and wants to follow the rules of the duchy, stating he will compete for the crown prince position fairly and honestly against Joshua. His father is astonished and says he will consider it. Ageenis then leaves them, announcing that the meeting is over, feeling very happy, stating that things are starting to change in the family and he is proud of his children. He then goes to Venetia, who hears about what happened from Gyfin and is shocked that Babel has given up his position as heir and that Joshua will take his mother to the capital. Gyfin explains that these are Duke Ageenis' orders, and she becomes furious, lamenting that everything she did has failed, even her request to her uncle to get rid of Joshua. Gyfin apologizes, saying he should have stopped Babel, but she asserts that he's incapable of doing anything, and that Babel is just as stubborn as his father. She tells Gyfin that due to his ongoing failures, if Joshua manages to stay as the true heir to the family instead of her son Babel, she will confess everything between them to Duke Ageenis. Gyfin panics, assuring her that he will prevent this from happening. She then asks him what Ageenis and Joshua are planning now. He tells her that Ageenis is taking Joshua to Tosh 5 Castle. She is shocked, asking why they are heading to a castle close to the Dark Forest. Gyfin explains that monsters in the forest have gone out of control, and the Duke intends to handle them with Joshua. She states that this means Joshua will go with his mother to the capital after he returns. Gyfin confirms, and Venetia insists that before they leave, she wants him to invite Lukia for dinner with her, as it will be her last meal. Preparations for Duke Ageenis' party to head to the forest begin, and Prince Kaiser prepares to return to the capital after Joshua's test. Joshua strolls around, gazing at the magic ring he received from his father, recalling a moment when he was talking to his father. Agnes tells him they are heading to the dark forest tomorrow, but before they go, he wants Joshua to abandon the Agnes family name. Joshua is surprised and asks why. His father explains he cannot explain it, but he will give him a gift as compensation. He recounts that he helped the leader of the Mage Tower a long time ago. As a reward, he was given a magical ring called the Dawn Ring, which is a powerful magical artifact made by the leader himself. It transforms into a magical armor as soon as mana is pumped into it, and Joshua will learn all about it as he trains with it. Joshua points out that the ring is supposed to belong to the Crown Prince, to which his father acknowledges, saying he is lending him the ring instead of letting it gather dust in the treasure room. Joshua asks why he is concealing its name, and his father explains that when the ring transforms into armor, it displays the symbols of royal families to hide its identity. He doesn't want any of his children to bear the crest of anyone but his own family, which is why he will hide his identity until they return. He tells Joshua that when they leave, any outsider he meets will know him as the heir of an unknown count in the east. Joshua concludes that the reason his father gave him the ring and simultaneously asked him to hide his family's identity is that he does not want any other family to control him, and that he is worried about Prince Kaiser visiting, surely to scout his strength at the Emperor's request. Agnes asks Joshua if he dislikes him because of his behavior towards him. Joshua replies that he doesn't know, recalling the past, stating that he intended to take revenge on him once the civil war started in the kingdom. However, he died in battle before Joshua reached him. He neglected both him and his mother in his life, causing her to suffer and die shortly after. He admits that due to how his father treated him in his previous life, he forgot that he was even his father, and therefore forgot why he hated him. We return to the present, with Joshua stating that it doesn't matter now, and this talk is past. He will use their relationship now to become stronger. Suddenly, Kaiser appears before Joshua, noting that Joshua seems happy and asking if something has happened. Kaiser knows that Joshua is going to the capital after completing his raid with his father on the Dark Forest, and mentions he will wait for his visit in the capital as soon as he arrives. Joshua asks how he will help him, and Kaiser explains that members of the royal family have the right to recommend royal knights, so he can get him into the Royal Knights Brigade without even taking the test. He can bypass mandatory military service this way, confident in Joshua's talent, and stating he could easily be a captain, ensuring that all those knights will remain under his control. He urges Joshua to accept the offer, especially since he is tempted by his talent. Joshua is annoyed and tells Kaiser he knows that duplicitous smile well. If it weren't for those knights behind him, he would kill him in seconds. However, he states that he can't do that now, and he needs to join the Royal Knights Brigade for real to become a leader there. That way, he can access their hidden storerooms, the loyal soldier being especially confined in that storeroom. Joshua then tells Kaiser that he's considering the offer, especially since he'll think about it after they finish their assault on the Black Forest. Brown is irritated by Joshua's words, saying his rudeness knows no bounds. Kaiser tells Brown to calm down, stating they should return as well. He assures him not to worry, claiming that Joshua will remain his. Joshua steps away, saying he won't remain a mere pawn in this life. Instead, he will be Kaiser's puppet until he finishes his revenge. Agines then moves with his troop towards the Black Forest, accompanied by the Red Dawn Knights, led by Gyphon and a single wizard named Harmon, who belongs to the Agines family. Joshua then observes his brother Babel, feeling curious about him, noting that he has been watching all his actions ever since the defeat. The mission arrives at Tosh 5, where the castle's knight commander, Robin, welcomes Agines. Agines mentions it's been a long time since he last saw him, and apologizes for bringing him to this dangerous place after he decided to retire. Robin insists that he is lucky to still serve him even after he retires. Suddenly, Count Beach comes out with his daughter Anna, welcoming Agines. Beach is related to Venetia, and Agines feels annoyed, stating that he should have gone straight to the Dark Forest. Beach exclaims to Robin that he hadn't informed him that Duke Agines had arrived, remarking that he has become foolish with age. Agines interrupts, telling Beach that he has surely become accustomed to life in this place, and that he sees him getting fatter than before. Beach is shocked by Agnes' words, claiming he is only getting fatter because the Duke's family takes care of him. Joshua is bewildered, thinking that this person has no sense or dignity whatsoever. Beach then welcomes Babel, noting it's been a long time since he last saw him, observing that Babel has gotten stronger. He later asks who the child accompanying them is. Gyphon introduces him as Joshua, explaining that he is the second son of Duke Agines. Beach is stunned, saying it's the first time he's heard of this, and that he didn't know his sister Venetia had another son. Gyphon clarifies that Joshua is not Venetia's son, causing Beach to express shock and wonder who the noble with pure blood is that is Joshua's mother. Gyphon tells him that his mother is not noble, and that she is just a common servant. Big is shocked and says they should have told him this from the beginning, which means he is just a common pig. Agnes ignores Big's words and tells them that they must have finished their introductions and that they should move now. Big tells him that he prepared a table for him and the knights, and that they should rest. Agnes responds that his knights are not weak and do not need to rest, asking his soldiers if they need a break. They tell him no, and he says fine, they will move out now. Big stops them and says he wants to go with him. Agnes is surprised and asks why, and Big says he is not an expert in battles like them, but it won't do for a count of the area to just sit quietly and let them fight for him. He says he will join them with his soldiers to help him. Agnes agrees, but asks what he will do with Anna, as he surely won't leave her alone in the castle. Big assures him not to worry, as his daughter will help them. Agnes is surprised and asks how they will take a little girl with them on a raid. Anna tells Agnes not to worry and uses her magical power to summon the spirit of the wind, surprising everyone present. Big tells him they discovered some time ago that his daughter can control spirits, so she will help them. Joshua remarks that a spirit mage is similar to natural magic, and that the number of spirit users is even fewer than that of magic users, stating that their kingdom might have only 100 individuals who can use spirits. He never imagined he would see such a rare talent here. He then says he has never heard of a spirit user named Anna in his past life, and wonders if Babel knows anything about her. Agnes tells them they must move now, and that the Crimson Twilight soldiers will take the lead in the raid. Big agrees and thanks him. Agnes then activates his greed again and says he must take this spirit user into his family and not let anyone else have her. Anna walks with Babel, and Joshua watches them, thinking he will take advantage of her being occupied with Babel, and tries to remember her, mentioning that he should have heard her name in his previous life. Big approaches Joshua and tells him he will always keep an eye on him in this raid. We then go to the royal capital, where the Wizard Tower captain talks about what happened in Joshua's test with the Emperor, seeming very happy. He says that this boy is so impressive that he managed to deal with the Joker despite its great power. The Emperor asks him for his opinion on Joshua, wanting to know it from a wizard's perspective. He says he can't judge Joshua freely, because the mana used by warriors and wizards is different, and someone like him cannot evaluate him. The Emperor tells him to give a general assessment, and wants to know if this boy has talent or not. He says the boy is talented enough to possibly be a royal knight, and mentions that he can compare the knight to a palmange. He says he has faced a palmange many times, and that he can withstand it at full strength. The Emperor agrees, saying a palmange is indeed present, but not to the extent that it could deal with the captain of the Wizard Tower. The wizard tells him he believes Joshua can overcome a palmange, and even him, surprising the Emperor. The Emperor asks if Joshua can defeat him, and the wizard says not at the moment, but in 10 years. He believes Joshua's talent will allow him to defeat him and a palmange easily. The Emperor laughs and then calls his aide, Knight Jack, asking him if there is any way they can bring Joshua to the castle, even just for a short time. Jack tells him that Prince Kaiser is working on a plan to bring him now. The Emperor is surprised, and Jack explains that Prince Kaiser has recommended Joshua for the Royal Knights. The Emperor says this is indeed a solution, and that he established a proposal system in the Royal Knights because he has always been irritated that the 11th and 12th Brigades in the Royal Knights do not have a distinguished knight, and Joshua could solve this issue. The Emperor tells Jack to keep an eye on the situation and watch his son Kaiser, informing him of what happens, to which Jack responds affirmatively. The Emperor continues to laugh, saying he intends to use Joshua's great talent for his own benefit. We then shift to Joshua, who is facing a large number of monsters in the Black Forest, expressing that he is in trouble. We jump back 2 hours earlier, where Joshua is with his father and the others, preparing their plan. Count Big comes to them and asks Agnes what he is doing and why they set up their camp in front of the forest, as they could face a monster attack. Robin says Count Big is foolish and doesn't know anything about the area, coming only to earn Agnes's loyalty. Agnes asks how he doesn't understand, as he can see the forest ahead of them. Big says he doesn't see anything different, but Agnes explains that the monsters get agitated at night, especially during a blood moon, and that they always attack villagers during this time. He warns that night is approaching and today is a blood moon night, so they should avoid entering the forest at this time. Big claims he recently understood. Agnes says that since he understands, he'll help the rest set up the camp and tells Babel and Joshua to help him, to which they agree. Joshua goes to gather firewood with the knights, and one of them tells him they have gathered enough and should return. Joshua insists he will gather more and tells them to go back while he will catch up with them. They say okay and leave. Joshua seizes the moment to summon the spear, Lukia, and heads towards the forest. Big is watching him and wonders what he will do. Joshua, now inside the forest, states that his goal is the primal stone, which is a very powerful magical stone. According to the rumors he heard, every magical element has its own primal stone. However, he notes that before he died, they could only find 5 of these stones, and no one has discovered anything about them recently. He explains that these stones can boost a mage's power from 1 magical circle to 3 in moments, which is why all mages and knights seek them. He recalls that they discovered one of these stones in the dark forest in his past life. Joshua continues walking in the forest, saying he can use this stone to control his power and Lukia from the frenzy. He notes that he has been walking for an hour now but has not reached the midpoint of the forest yet. Suddenly, he feels a massive tremor, and an orc appears walking. Joshua realizes that this orc will block his path to the forest center, stating that the orc's strength overpowers weak magic, and he would need to be a B-level knight to get rid of it. However, he sees he can use all his power and plans to catch it off guard and quickly defeat it. Joshua attacks it, thinking he can sneak in and swiftly cut its neck, but suddenly, the orc starts to scream and unleash its power, leaving Joshua confused as he wonders where all this strength is coming from. He needs to finish it quickly, but suddenly finds the orc looming over him, attacking him with all its might. Joshua is shocked and realizes he must dodge or he will die, managing to evade the orc's devastating blow quickly and escapes. He concludes he was mistaken, thinking he could fight such a strong monster in a frenzy due to the blood moon, otherwise he would die. He quickly hides behind a tree and decides to conceal his presence until the orc passes by. He prepares to use the technique of his old friend, the King of Killers, and wonders if it will work in his current body, but decides to give it a try. He begins to channel mana from his body to hide his presence. The orc appears beside him but cannot see him. Joshua thinks his trick succeeded and attacks the orc, feeling that his body is starting to suffer since he hasn't used this technique for a long time. Suddenly, one of the branches he jumps on breaks, causing Joshua to fall to the ground. He realizes he has been careless when he sees a group of monsters have noticed him and appear to attack. Joshua states he is in a predicament, but resolves to use his secret skill, employing the spear technique to attack them with a wild storm, defeating them. Joshua's attack strikes all the monsters that were going for him. Afterward, Joshua feels exhausted, saying the technique drained all his strength. He thought he had reached level 2 in the magical spear arts, but the problem is his body still being weak and unable to withstand such great powers. He reflects that he cannot rest here. Given the movement patterns of these monsters, they seem to be heading towards their camp, and it isn't a suitable time to rest. He must find the primal stone and return to the camp quickly. Returning to the camp, we see a group of soldiers on guard, but suddenly goblins appear out of nowhere and attack them. One soldier warns all the knights, telling them they are under attack, and all the knights rush out to face the goblins and the monsters that emerged. A group of monsters appears from the other side of the camp, ready to attack them as soon as they get distracted. Babel keeps killing all the goblins that appear before him. Knight Jack intervenes, swiftly dispatching the monsters attacking Babel. Babel is taken aback, wondering who this knight belongs to, and noting how strong he is, clearly exceeding the C rank. Suddenly, a group of monsters that had been hiding behind the camp prepares to attack them. All the present knights are shocked, declaring that there are thousands of them, and they must retreat. Jiphon appears behind them, stating he will execute anyone who retreats, and tells them to organize ranks and prepare to charge at the goblins. They indeed form their lines and move to attack the goblins and remaining monsters, while Babel and Jack take care of the monsters that attacked them on the front line. Jiphon charges at the goblins with his special attack, taking out a large number of them, but is shocked when he sees even more appear. Jiphon exclaims that their numbers are endless, and thought the effects of the red moon would start tomorrow. Suddenly, a giant orc appears before Jiphon and attacks one of the soldiers. Jiphon is surprised, stating that the timing is particularly bad and that no one else can handle this but him, since he is the only one classified as a B-level knight. He charges at the orc, claiming he will take it down with one blow, but the orc counters and sends him flying. Everyone present is astonished, and as soon as the knights see Jiphon defeated, they begin to flee quickly from this orc to avoid being killed. Jiphon is stunned, wondering how this orc repelled his attack and defeated him, pondering whether this is the effect of the blood moon on them. Suddenly, Agnes appears, telling him that the knights shouldn't lose focus in battle, and that he will take care of the orc and these monsters. Agnes steps forward to face the monsters as they charge at him, laughing and telling them they are very weak. He unsheathes his sword and delivers a single strike, capable of wiping out thousands of monsters in front of him. The remaining monsters are astonished and terrified of him. Jiphon notes that with just one strike, Agnes took out a large number of them, which is what one would expect from Duke Agnes, one of the 9 stars of the continent. We then return to Joshua, who who has defeated so many goblins that he has reached the midpoint of the forest, finding the primal stone known as Bronto. We jump back to the battle, where Aeginus is waiting for a second wave of monsters to attack. Big tells Babel that this is the power of his father, Aeginus, and that he surely inherited this strength from him and will be able to use it in the future. He mentions that Babel must be terrified of this massive power, since it's his first time seeing something like it, and understands his feeling, but reminds him that he forgot something important. Big rushes back to Jifon, asking where the boy named Joshua is, as he hasn't seen him at all. Jifon tells him that he doesn't know, and that he hasn't seen Joshua since the beginning of the battle. Big says he probably ran away to stay alive, which is expected from a pathetic layman. The other knights agree, saying he definitely ran away and they haven't seen him since the fight started, and that he is insulting the Duke's family. Aegis uses his power and shouts at them, asking what they're doing since the battle isn't over yet. They are surprised and say they understand, and then Babel goes with the other knights as they continue hunting the goblins that attacked them. The goblins keep fleeing into the forest, and the knights laugh at them, saying they are very cowardly monsters, and that they will teach them a lesson they won't forget. But suddenly, a big explosion occurs in the forest. One of the orcs kills the goblin beasts, and the knights are surprised and ask what's happening. Suddenly, a group of orcs appears from inside the forest and they charge at the knights, continuing to kill them. The goblins and other monsters, upon seeing this, retreat as well and charge at the knights. Jifon is shocked and wonders how this could happen, thinking they had finished off all the monsters. He didn't expect a whole group of orcs to appear. Suddenly, he feels a strange power in the area and notices lightning starting to show. Joshua appears and goes for one of the orcs, using his lightning attack to strike it with a very strong blow, killing it. All those present are stunned by what happened, asking what he just did. Jifon says it's impossible. He took down a very strong orc in one hit, and Joshua is supposed to be a sea-level knight. How could he have done it? Big tells Joshua that what he did was cheating, that he must be using some trick, and that he is just an insect that appeared after the battle ended, so it's impossible for him to take on the role of the hero. He states that this attack must have been the Duke's, and that he was just helping him. Big's knights agree, saying it's impossible for a sea-level knight like Joshua to defeat a strong orc with a single hit, while Jifon himself couldn't defeat it despite being a B-level knight. Joshua says he is sick of their words and will show them his true power. He is sure that after this attack, he will faint, but it doesn't matter. He will rely on his father to save him. Joshua joins the knights who are defending against a group of orcs, telling them to retreat to avoid being hurt by his attack. Joshua begins to summon his lightning, explaining that he absorbed part of the strength of the Bronto stone, but he doesn't know if his body can handle all this power. He leaps above the orcs quickly and uses his lightning storm skill, attacking them and easily defeating 2 orcs. Everyone present is shocked, with Big saying it's impossible, and that Joshua really is the one who defeated them. The soldiers are stunned, asking how Joshua defeated them, as orc skin is supposed to be very thick, to the extent that it doesn't even get hurt by a B-level knight's attack. How could Joshua, a C-level knight, have defeated them with a single blow? This is the first time they see a knight capable of forming his own mana and releasing lightning magic. They are convinced that Joshua is a magical swordsman. Aegis watches Joshua, noting that he is holding on to his consciousness with great difficulty, surely not wanting to show any weakness in front of them. Harmon approaches Aegis, saying he knows why he is now placing great hopes on Joshua. Aegis asks about Joshua, and Harmon replies that he can't classify him among the knights because he is not a knight. However, he can rank him among sorcerers. Joshua will stand equal to those with the 3 magical circles, and his son is a true monster, capable of shaking their continent when he grows up. He can achieve the dream of the dukedom. Aegis quickly leaves him and runs toward Joshua. Joshua tells Aegis that he has reached his limit after this attack and collapses on the ground. One of the orcs appears, trying to attack him, but Aegis shows up and swiftly eliminates the monster, protecting Joshua. Joshua laughs, saying that everything went according to his plan, then faints. Later, Joshua wakes up to find himself in the dukedom, which is destroyed. He wonders what is happening, as he doesn't understand anything, and whether this is just a dream or something else. He then sees his brother Babel coming out of their castle, and Joshua is shocked, realizing this is what the dukedom looked like after it was destroyed in his previous life. He wonders if this is a kind of special dream, but then snaps out of it, affirming it must be a prophecy related to the Bronto stone. This stone is so powerful that it can show glimpses of the future. Suddenly, a strong wind attacks Babel, and Joshua is astonished, asking what's happening. A girl named Anna appears in front of Babel, and is the one who attacked him. Joshua is stunned, exclaiming what's going on, as this girl is Anna with the fierce wind spirit. He recalls that he doesn't remember anything about a girl named Anna from the future, but he does remember the wind spirit Cylon well. He wonders if something happened between the dukedom and Anna that caused the conflict. He thinks that since Anna is here, her master must also be nearby. Babel continues talking with Anna, but Joshua doesn't hear anything, and believes Anna is using sound magic to block out their conversation. Suddenly, a figure appears beside Anna, and Joshua rushes over to hear what is happening. Babel tells Anna and the figure that he will not give up, and that the dukedom cannot fall into their hands. The figure commands the wind spirit to attack Babel, and indeed, the wind spirit strikes him, causing significant injury. The figure laughs at him, saying that he and the dukedom are weaker than each other. Joshua is shocked at first sight. He sees that this is Drax with the fierce wind spirit. Joshua quickly wakes up from the dream, stunned, realizing this was no ordinary dream. He is sure that this dream shows either glimpses of his past or future. He thinks it doesn't matter, and wonders how many hours have passed since he was injured. Joshua tries to stand up, but his body starts to ache. He says his body still isn't capable of handling his immense power. He concludes that he has now reached the second level of the magical spear style, surpassing the strength of a sea-level knight. And this happened very quickly thanks to the Bronto Stone, which helped him defeat the monsters, and also see glimpses of the future. He says as soon as his body heals, he wants to learn more about the primordial stones and the locations of the others. Suddenly, he is shocked to see his father Aegis beside him, who tells him that the moon is very beautiful tonight. He mentions that, only a few hours ago, the red moon was terrifying to anyone who saw it, but now, if one looks at it, it is very beautiful, as it has returned to its normal state. Joshua agrees, and Aegis tells him that as soon as they return to the dukedom, they will head to the capital. He says that his plan to hide his identity will continue until they reach there, and he wants to go to the capital and enroll in the academy as if he is not his son but the son of one of the counts from the east, acting as a regular noble boy wanting to revive the count's land again. Joshua agrees, saying that he should listen to him for now, and that it's best for him to avoid the eyes of many people there. He should focus solely on increasing his strength to regain his former power. Aegis tells Joshua that while he was sleeping, he was muttering a very strange name, and asks if he knows the cursed name Drax with the fierce wind spirit. Joshua is taken aback and doesn't answer Aegis, who says it doesn't matter right now and that he needs to rest first. They will talk when they return to the dukedom tomorrow. Next, we go to Big, who is talking with Javon, asking him if his sister knows anything about Joshua. Javon says she knows, and Big is surprised, asking how she can be quiet about him, as this boy poses a danger to Babel's position and power. Javon replies that she hasn't cared about him until now, because he was very weak and worked in the stables. They didn't know he had such frightening power. Big insists that it's impossible for him to awaken such immense power in a short time, as even the continent's genius, Lord Babel, couldn't do it. He points out that despite Babel's genius and strength, he received support and help from everyone in the dukedom, including Aegis himself training him. So how could a neglected child like Joshua become stronger than him? It's impossible for Joshua to be a sea-level knight, and they all saw him easily defeat the huge orc, plus he also used magic. Javon responds that indeed, it's impossible for sea-level knights to defeat orcs, but if he is a magical knight like they say, then it should be easy for him. Big insists it's impossible for Joshua to be a magical knight, and thinks there's another force controlling him. Javon is surprised, and Big says he believes that due to the immense power that appeared in Joshua for a short time, he must have made a pact with a very powerful devil. Javon denies this, stating that Joshua revealed his power in front of Aegis and all the sorcerers belonging to the Emperor, and none of them discovered any demonic powers in him. Big tells him to focus, saying he doesn't care whether he made a pact with the devil or not, but he wants him to carry out the plan as if he did make a pact with the devil. Javon laughs, saying he understands his plan. Big tells him that Joshua is strong, but still just a child, and he wanted to showcase his power in front of them. They will use this power against him to accuse him of using the devil's power and get rid of him. Javon asks how he plans to do that, and Big says that he will simply watch him for now and then take action. His daughter Anna will go with Joshua to the Royal Academy, and he will have her keep an eye on him there. Javon agrees, and Big adds that he will be able to devise a plan to get rid of him because if Joshua becomes stronger, Babel will lose his position as the crown prince. Javon reassures him not to worry, as he too will prepare his own plan. We then move to Aegis's hall, where we see Cheryl, who is very sad. Suddenly, Kokas arrives, announcing that there is urgent news and that Lord Joshua is about to reach the castle with Aegis after they finish the raid on the forest. Cheryl asks him what he wants her to do with this information, and Kokas is surprised, thinking she would be happy. Cheryl asks why he cares about Joshua, considering he hated him. Kokas explains that Joshua was just an illegitimate child, but now he's the youngest knight capable of using mana on the continent. The Pontier Duke's family has considerable wealth, but they cannot buy a knight like him and must take him into their ranks by other means. Cheryl inquires what means, and he asks if she has forgotten that her father sent her here. She explains that he sent her to get engaged to Babel, so that if they help solve the problem with the mercenary king, they could gain some benefit. Kokas affirms this, saying that the mercenary king has allied with the Crumble family. He informs her that this mercenary king is a very strong layman who managed to become a swordmaster, despite using an axe, and is one of the 12 superhumans in the running for a position in the realm, the 9 stars, and he tells her that their spies said that Marquis Cromble has allied with this mercenary king and is using his wealth to support him. This Marquis wants to use him to steal their wealth in the Avalon region, and if the war breaks out between the families, their family will suffer greatly. Cheryl tells him that they won't be able to deal with this mercenary king or defeat him. Kokas tells her that the two families cannot allow either to dominate the Avalon region. They have been in silent conflict for a long time, but now, with the mercenary king joining Marquis Cromble, they are in crisis, and the situation has turned into a real war. Cheryl tells him that they can't buy the mercenary king with money, that's why her father sent her here. Kokas agrees and says that her father sent her here to get tied to Babel, and then they will seek help from Duke Aeginus, who will be able to deal with the mercenary king easily. Cheryl says that she really likes strong people, but she does not want to deal with Babel. Kokas is surprised by her behavior, and points out that she is usually enthusiastic, but this time she is discouraged. Cheryl asks him why they don't ask for help from Aeginus directly without her getting engaged, and Kokas tells her it's not possible since her father's pride prevents him from asking for help from Aeginus without establishing relations between the families. Cheryl calls her father foolish, and Kokas tells her that if he were in her father's place, he would prioritize his family's safety over his pride and would ask Aeginus for help. He tells Cheryl that he knows well she is not interested in Lord Babel, and that's why he doesn't want her to become a sacrifice for their family. He suggests another way. He knows she loves Lord Joshua, and despite her haughty behavior toward him, she is attracted to him, and she could get engaged to him. Their plan would proceed as it is. Cheryl is shocked and begins to cry. Kokas asks her if his assumption was wrong. She says no, and that she will talk to Joshua before he leaves for the capital. Kokas gets happy and tells her he will find them a chance to talk, and Cheryl is overjoyed and asks how Joshua will treat her. Then a huge party begins at the Duke's palace in honor of Joshua, who defeated the orc in the forest. Jack walks alongside Joshua and comments that everyone is talking about his lord's power. Joshua tells him to stop calling him my lord, so he doesn't implicate himself. Jack insists he is indeed his lord and has decided to become his knight after the raid, since he has proven his strength to everyone. Joshua laughs and says he never consulted him about the matter at all, but fine. He then tells him to return to the party because he is tired and wants to go rest. Jack agrees and leaves him, telling him to call on him anytime he needs him. Joshua feels irritated, recalling that he has turned down many knights in his past because he decided to abandon Emperor Caesar since he was his close friend, but in the end, he was betrayed by him. He remembers his father's words about Draxus by the Grace, and acknowledges he needs to think about many things. Before he continues on his way, he suddenly encounters an old man who asks Joshua if he is well. Joshua responds affirmatively, and asks what he needs. The old man tells him that a banquet has been prepared for him, and they are waiting for him to join. Joshua tells him that he already informed them he is tired, and will go rest. The old man insists that this is not a request and that he won't be going to the night's banquet, but Lady Venetia requested that he join her table, and his mother, Lucia, has also come at her request. Joshua is surprised, and we realize that Venetia is preparing something special. He indeed goes to dinner, finding Venetia and his mother, Lucia, present, and his mother rejoices when she sees him. Venetia welcomes Joshua, stating that this is the first time they are meeting. Joshua ignores her, and Jeffon urges Joshua to show respect to Duchess Venetia. Joshua looks at him with great irritation, and Jeffon becomes frightened, wondering why he is looking at him that way. Lucia tells Joshua to pay his respects to the Duchess. Joshua listens to her, and introduces himself to Venetia as Joshua Aeginus. Venetia frowns as soon as she hears he is using the Aeginus name, declaring it doesn't matter and she will tolerate him today. stating it would be the last time she sees him. Venetia tells Joshua she heard he is traveling to the Royal Academy tomorrow, which is why she prepared a special dinner for him, expressing her wish to get to know him and his mother. Lukia is surprised and asks why her son is going to the Royal Academy. Venetia is surprised that she still doesn't know. Jeffon explains that Joshua is now a knight of rank C, and he is going to the academy to study. Lukia, upon hearing this, becomes very happy and tells Joshua she is proud of him. Venetia tells Lukia that she organized the dinner to celebrate Joshua, and also apologizes for having neglected her and her son during the past time, saying if Lukia is upset about anything, she can voice it. Lukia says no and thanks her. Venetia declares that since they are settled, they will begin the dinner. The servants enter and place the food before them. Joshua looks at the food placed in front of them and laughs, saying he understands. Venetia tells him to sit and eat with Lukia, indicating that the dinner was specially made for them. She asks Lukia if this lavish dinner bothers her. Lukia replies no, to which Venetia responds that she made it to help them bond. Lukia thanks her for caring about them. Venetia tells her to start eating and enjoy the meal, and indeed Lukia is about to eat when Venetia becomes very happy, but Joshua stops his mother, saying he wants to apologize first to Lady Venetia and thank her for their hospitality. Venetia tells him it doesn't matter, and insists he should eat first before the food gets cold. Joshua tells her, unfortunately, they cannot accept her kindness. Lukia is astonished and asks Joshua what he is doing. Joshua tells her that the Duchess has done a lot for them, providing them with all sorts of food, but she refuses to eat with them. Lukia is confused and agrees it's true. Joshua tells Venetia that since this is their last meal before he leaves, he wants her to eat with them. Joshua explains that he has faced thousands of assassination attempts in his life, the most famous being the poisoning they tried on him, and they surely put a strong poison in this food, which won't have any effect, so no one recognizes it. He then asks Venetia why she does not want to eat with them. She replies that she is trying to maintain her weight lately, and this dinner is for them. Joshua insists she does not need to worry about maintaining her weight, and that she is beautiful just as she is, adding that she should eat with them. She thanks him but refuses, still surprised, questioning if he has discovered the poison in their food, which is why he wants her to eat with them. She then calls him a cunning child who hides his strength and intelligence, and clearly suspects her because she is not eating with them. Joshua asks her if she thinks a lot about why before answering, or if she really has poisoned the food. Jeffon screams at Joshua, demanding to know how he could accuse the Duchess of such a vile charge, insisting she would never do something like that, and that he should talk to those above him with respect. Joshua gets mad at him, telling him he knows his place as he speaks of respect, and that he is merely a knight to them. Speaking to the Duke's son, Jeffon becomes frightened, saying that every time he speaks with him, he exudes a strong urge for bloodshed, and questions how a child who is still a knight has such a murderous intent. Joshua asks Venetia for her opinion on his words, admitting he was teasing her at first, but based on Jeffon's reaction, he is sure she has indeed placed poison in the food. Venetia gets furious and curses him, while Jeffon draws his sword, declaring that due to Joshua's insult to a member of the royal family, he will execute him immediately, even if he is the Duke's son. Joshua brandishes his spear and demands to know how he dares to draw his sword before him. He tells Jeffon that not only has he poisoned their food but also drawn his sword before him, and he will cut off his head. Jeffon feels the immense power radiating from Joshua and thinks it impossible that this is a knight of rank C. He is sure Joshua has reached rank B, commenting that this specific weapon is incredibly powerful and legendary. He concludes that since Joshua drew his sword on him, he must eliminate him and let Venetia protect him, because this boy will become a problem if he grows stronger. Suddenly, the Duke appears and stops them, asking what they are doing. We then move to Prince Caesar, who is in the royal palace when the captain of the Sorcerer's Tower arrives, claiming to have a message from the house of Duke Aeginus. Caesar becomes excited and exclaims that surely Joshua has made a decision, especially since it's concluded, wondering if he accepted the offer to join the Royal Knights. The sorcerer assures him that he will accept, as the Royal Knights are a dream for every knight in the country to join. Caesar reads the message and is stunned. He starts laughing maniacally. The sorcerer asks what's wrong, and Caesar tears the message, laughing that Joshua turned out to be even more impressive. We return once again to the confrontation between Joshua and Jeffon, where Aeginus arrives and asks what they are doing. Jeffon is shocked and questions how long Aeginus has been there. Aeginus shouts at him, asking what he is doing, and Venetia intervenes, saying she invited Lukia and the boy Joshua to dinner because she heard they would accompany him to the capital. Thus, she wanted to share one last meal with them. Aeginus looks from Joshua to the food before him, understands the situation, then looks at Jeffon and asks him how long he will dare keep his sword drawn in front of him. He warns him to apologize and sheath his sword quickly. Joshua also puts away his spear, and Agenis tells Joshua that they will be leaving early tomorrow, so he wants to go sleep and prepare. Joshua agrees and takes his mother Lucia with him to leave. Venetia asks Agenis if he is treating Joshua differently from before, questioning if he has become attached to him after neglecting him. Agenis asks Venetia if she hates him, and she replies, yes. He inquires what she hates about him, and she explains that he knows well why she hates him. He then asserts that she must hate him for his sudden concern for Joshua. Venetia insists that he should not show interest in a filthy common boy like that in front of her, asserting that he is insulting her. She claims to know well that he was never interested in her, but rather in building connections with her royal family. She acknowledges that she has no right to complain about hating him because he married her for political reasons, not out of love for her. She has remained silent about her rights, but she will not remain silent about Babel's rights. If her son Babel loses his position or value in front of everyone because of this child, she will not stay quiet. She asserts that he is the head of one of the 5 most powerful families in the kingdom and should know the manners of nobility, while her son Babel is noble and unlike common Joshua. Agenis laughs and asks if anyone who understands the nobility would do something as vile as she has. Venetia is shocked and asks what he is talking about. Agenis becomes furious, asking if she thinks he is ignorant and does not know what they both are doing. Venetia and Jephon are stunned, asserting he must know everything. We then go to Joshua, who returns to his room and says that his mother was very sad when he took her back to her room and that she was surprised by what had happened. He says that throughout this life and his previous one, he always kept her worried about him. Then, Sir Jack arrives and asks Joshua how his meal with Venetia went and what news he has. Joshua asks him how he found out, and Jack explains that he searched for him in his room and didn't find him, so he asked the head servant and learned that he was with Venetia. Joshua is surprised and comments that the head servant was also involved in this matter, and that Venetia brought many people into this assassination plot, and that he would punish them well at the right time. Jack tells Joshua that he heard he is traveling to the academy tomorrow, and that this is good for him because the academy will allow him to become stronger than before and will also protect him from danger, especially as long as Duke Agenis is with him so he can learn from him. Joshua asks Jack if he's just telling him this, and Jack says no. He bows before him and confirms his request again, emphasizing that he wants him to become his personal knight and serve him. Joshua is hesitant about what to do with him, and asks Jack if he knows how many difficulties he will face because of him, saying that if he wants to be a true knight, he cannot be by his side because his path is filled with blood and revenge, and is not suitable for knights. He asks Jack if he really wants to serve him seriously, and Jack says he is certain and will walk any path with him, even if it's a bloody one. Joshua says fine, and agrees to become his servant knight. The next morning, Agenis and Joshua leave the palace, and Agenis asks Joshua if he is sure about what he is doing, stating that even if he is pretending to be the poor count's son, he should have more servants with him than he currently does, since he only has one knight. Joshua replies that he likes to depend on himself, and that he has lived his whole life alone, so one night will be enough for him. Agenis says okay, and suddenly, Cheryl appears in front of their procession and stops them. Agenis is surprised, and Cheryl apologizes for stopping them but says she wanted to say goodbye before they leave. Agenis apologizes to her for not speaking with her during her time at the palace, and also for not being able to talk to her at Ethelyn and Count Rebecca's farewell party, explaining that he thought she was ill. She tells him she is feeling better now, and Agenis is surprised and asks her why she has started behaving like a refined lady again when he liked her previous style, because he is used to raising boys. She responds that as long as he wants that, she will speak in her usual manner with him. Agenis laughs and tells her that this is the Cheryl he knows, asking if she will go with them to the capital, noting that he left her behind since her father is there. She says no, and that she wants to visit Count Kokas's family first. Kokas tells her she shouldn't visit his family, but she says she promised his wife she would meet her. Cheryl then approaches Joshua and tells him she wants to give him something important. Joshua is surprised and thinks, what does this crazy girl want from me now? She says she wants to give him something important, takes out her family crest, and gives it to Joshua, telling him to visit her family's estate when he arrives in the capital. Kokas is shocked and tells Cheryl she shouldn't be this straightforward. Joshua asks Cheryl why she is giving him the crest, and she says it's an invitation and that she wants him to visit them as soon as he arrives. The knights behind Joshua are surprised by her behavior, suggesting she must be fond of him, while another remarks that she must be fond of Lord Babel. They tell him that she is not involved with Lord Babel, and what she just did is practically a confession of love for Joshua. Joshua thinks he cannot refuse her in front of everyone, and that it will hurt her. leading to many rumors spreading because of them, so he wants to avoid being the center of attention until he regains all his strength. Cheryl starts to act upset in front of Joshua, pretending to cry, asking if he plans to humiliate her in front of everyone, and that he will take the crest from her, and she only wanted to apologize to him for her behavior with him. Joshua is shocked and sees that she is insistent, so he takes the crest from her and tells her he will visit her when he is free. She is very happy, and Aeginus asks Cheryl if he can visit them too, and she says, definitely. He tells her okay, and that he will visit them with Joshua since he needs to talk to her father. They leave her and walk away, and Aeginus looks at Joshua, happy, telling him that he is still a child and doesn't understand what it means for a noble girl to give him her family crest. Next, we move to the royal capital, where one of the knights informs the emperor that Duke Aeginus and his son Joshua have begun their journey and will reach the capital in 3 days. He also mentions that Prince Kaiser requested Joshua to accept the nomination specifically for the royal knights, which Joshua rejected. The emperor is surprised and asks why he refused to join the strongest knights in the world. He notes that Joshua is the second son of the Light family and the son of a concubine, implying that his chances in governance are non-existent. He wonders if Joshua has a plan to turn things to his favor and rule the duchy, or what he is thinking. The knight responds that he believes Joshua is planning something else. The emperor asks what that is, and the knight explains that Joshua stated in his letter of refusal to Kaiser that he did not want anyone from the royal family to nominate him, and that he would enter the royal knights by his own effort. The emperor laughs, saying he is either crazy or very strong, and wants to know which one he is. 4 days pass, and Joshua arrives with his father at the royal capital to Duke Aeginus's palace. Lukia is very happy and asks Joshua if they are indeed staying in a place like this. Joshua affirms this, and Jack tells Joshua that this place hasn't changed since his childhood, and he was always here with Duke Aeginus. Joshua is surprised to hear that Jack was close to his father, to the extent of being brought to the capital, and laments that he had never heard of a knight named Jack in his past life, speculating that he may have failed in his previous life to become a knight, or something happened to him, unlike his current life. Jack tells Joshua that this place doesn't have many servants or knights, and that they can train here as they wish. Joshua agrees, and Lukia calls out for Joshua, wanting to look at the palace. Joshua agrees, stating that this palace is very dangerous, and that there is no one protecting it except him and Jack, and that the servants are few in number, and that his mother chose them herself. They then enter to explore the palace, and Joshua thinks that protecting his mother if ambushed will be very difficult in such a place, and that he won't be able to be by her side all the time because of the academy, so he needs to find a solution. He tells Jack that he will go on an errand now and will return later. Jack asks if he will go with him, mentioning that he surely doesn't know the way in the capital, but Joshua reassures him not to worry, saying he will handle it, and telling him the most important thing is to keep his mother safe until he returns. Jack agrees, and Joshua then heads to a neighborhood in the capital, noting that this place hasn't changed since his previous life, wondering how the people there will treat him now. Suddenly, someone appears behind Joshua, telling him he must be lost to come to a place like this. Joshua replies that he is here to find the red coin located in the Rolf River, and the person is stunned, telling Joshua to follow him. Joshua insists that he has come to the right place, and that he needs to gather a lot of information, and that this organization is the best one to gather information from. Joshua follows the person to the tavern, where everyone is surprised by what Joshua is doing there. The person tells him to follow him to a secret door in the place, and then opens a door in the ground. Joshua notes that they are a very organized group, and that he won't worry about information leaks here. They descend underground, and the person warns him to take care because the place is very dark. They pass by one of the guards who quickly greets them, and Joshua observes that this person holds a higher rank than he imagined, and that everyone in this place respects him. They arrive at another secret room, and this man tells Joshua to rest, explaining that he will learn the information he needs from someone on the other side. Joshua is surprised, and this person asks him what type of information he seeks. Joshua laughs, saying he never expected the organization's manager would come personally to give him the information. The person is shocked and asks how Joshua knows he is the manager, and Joshua explains that intelligence organizations are based on secrecy even among members, and so no one really knows each other except under rare circumstances. He states that even informants don't know each other, and that most new members won't know of him, but the older members, like the guards and tavern owner, recognized him right away and showed him respect upon seeing him. It was then that Joshua figured out who he was. The manager informs Joshua that the rumors about him were just lies, but he is genuinely clever. He is honored to meet the second son of Duke Aeginus, Lord Joshua. Joshua asks him how he knows this, and the manager explains that he must surely recognize him as He is the most talked about person in the entire kingdom. Joshua is surprised that he knows his identity, even with his father Aginas's efforts to keep it hidden, reflecting on the organization's strong intelligence capabilities, and expressing concern that his identity might leak. The manager reassures Joshua that he knows what he is thinking, and wants to assure him that no one can know his identity, because only he and a few of his followers know this information. Introducing himself as Zero, the manager of the Crescent Gate organization in the royal capital, Joshua asks him what kind of information he will provide, asking if he would give important information like that to someone who is still new. Zero responds that of course he wants to build a relationship with him. Joshua insists nothing comes for free, and that he will surely be asking for something in return for that information. Joshua then tells Zero he wants information of 0 level, and Zero is taken aback, asking how he knows about that level. Joshua replies that he knows a lot about them, and Zero asks him what kind of information he wants. Joshua explains that he wants to know about the destroyed properties of the Fizz family. Zero tells him that most of the family's inheritance is in the black market, and that it will take time to find it. Joshua inquires how long it will take, and Zero estimates about a week while asking if Joshua needs anything else. Joshua replies that he will be in danger if anyone learns he is searching for those family properties, or if anyone discovers his true strength, stating he will set a trap for them so that way he can catch 2 birds with 1 stone. Joshua adds that he will reward the person who finds the red coin with a Crescent Gate crest. Zero is stunned, and asks how he knows this piece of information, stating that it is a legendary tale passed down through their organization. Joshua insists that if Zero accepts his offer and its conditions, he will bring him the Crescent Gate crest within 3 years. Zero points out that they no longer need this crest in the War for Succession since it ended exactly a year ago. But the crest remains very important to their organization, and they have been searching for it for a long time. Zero then asks Joshua what his conditions are. Joshua tells him that first, it is natural that no one knows anything about his identity, and the second condition is that he wants him to collect all known details about Drax Balgress. Zero is shocked and asks Joshua why he is looking for information about the warlord. Joshua replies that he needs this information and asks if Zero intends to cooperate with him and accept his offer. Zero nods in agreement. 2 months pass after Joshua arrives at the capital, and he continues training with Jack all day to regain his former strength. He also plans to move Lukia from the palace to a second palace on the outskirts of the capital, because it is a much better place with more guards who can protect her, unlike this palace. Initially, Lukia refuses to leave her son Joshua and go, but eventually agrees after Joshua insists, and she travels to the second palace on the outskirts of the capital. Finally, Joshua feels relieved and reassured about her well-being. Time passes, and there's only a week left before Joshua enters the academy. He feels anxious and tense, and Jack asks him what's wrong since it's been a while since he's been himself. Joshua tells him he's fine, but explains that Zero said he would gather some information within a week, but 2 months have gone by without hearing anything from him. He needs that information before entering the academy, because it will affect his plans. Suddenly, Zero arrives where Joshua is, and mentions that it's been a long time since he last saw him. Joshua is surprised and points out that he's been delayed. Zero explains that there were many issues in gathering the information while looking at Jack, who seems very upset with him. Joshua tells Jack to calm down, assuring him that Zero is someone he knows. Joshua asks Zero if he has the information, to which Zero confidently replies that he does, and hands over the information. He explains that the items Joshua is looking for have been bought from many people, making it difficult to track down. However, they have gathered the locations of where they can be found. Joshua inquires about the payment, and Zero tells him that this operation is on their account, especially since Joshua will provide them with something much more valuable in the future. Joshua asks if the items he is looking for have any special power, but Zero laughs, saying he knew that was the case. He then tells Joshua that regarding the other information he requested, he will visit him soon to inform him about it, and that he will have to pay for that information with a favor. Joshua finds this strange, noting they will surely ask for a favor when they need something in the future. After Zero leaves, Joshua opens the information and begins to read, learning that the Orvis family was a very powerful family of nobles specializing in magic, and that they stood on equal footing with the Rebecca family. Everyone dealt with this family with immense respect, because the head of the family managed to defeat a knight with the strength of a swordmaster with ease. This sorcerer was the first person in the world with the power of a magical fighter. However, this family's fame was not as significant in the kingdom as it was in neighboring kingdoms, especially in the magical kingdom of Tarir, to the point that the king himself requested the head of the family to to move with his family to his kingdom. Unfortunately, this marked the end of the family because they fell into the hands of the royal family there. Joshua says that according to the records, the Avelian kingdom is currently getting rid of all the possessions of this family. However, he then sees a name, Baron Accent, and Jack asks him if he wants to know anything about the Baron, known as the Night Trader. Joshua asks if he knows him, and Jack confirms that he does, mentioning he's a well-known figure in the black market, and no transaction goes unnoticed there. He also notes that he's the brother of Count Page, whom they encountered a while ago. Joshua is taken aback, saying he didn't know this pig had siblings. Suddenly, Count Rebrika and his daughter Encel appear before Joshua, saying they want to discuss something important with him. The scene shifts to a large palace in a remote area away from the capital, where nobles display their power whenever their palaces are near the royal palace. However, this palace is located in a secluded area of the capital, yet is very luxurious, reflecting the vast wealth of its owner, Baron Accent, the king's black market trader. We then see the Baron speaking respectfully to a child named Shin, asking him what brought him to the palace. He reminds Shin that the time for their agreement is approaching, and he has not brought him what he wants yet. The Baron acknowledges he knows this, but claims that the elves are incredibly rare and hard to find, asking for a bit more time. Shin insists he personally chose the Baron among everyone because he does not want to hear excuses for failure. Accent apologizes, and Shin tells him he will give him only 1 more week. Accent happily agrees, assuring Shin that he will bring him what he wants within that week. Shin stresses that he needs the elves for his own sake because if time passes, he won't be lenient with him. After Shin leaves, Accent looks very troubled and says that every time he sees that brat, his life becomes more burdensome. Accent's servant asks him if 1 week will truly be sufficient, considering most of the elves have already disappeared and they can't find any. Accent insists they must find them, otherwise, everything he has built will collapse. He adds that this brat is just the son of Marquis Felix, but his father has significant influence in the army and complete trust from the emperor, and he is certain that this child could easily eliminate them. Next, we see Shin speaking to his guard, asking if he's sure Accent can bring the elves within a week. Shin replies that he doesn't know and admits it's a tough situation for him. The guard is surprised and asks why Shin set only a week. Shin says that it is the easiest way for rulers to control their people. The guard replies that it's the stick and carrot method. Shin agrees, but states that there's a better way, which is fear. Even if people are starving, they will remain afraid of the ruler and won't oppose them. The ruler, afterward, will bestow his leftovers upon them, making them content. The guard laughs, saying that means he knows Accent will fail to bring the elves. Shin confirms this, saying that at that time, Accent will be so scared that he'll beg him to let him live, and he will show mercy and spare his life. Afterward, Baron Accent will become his loyal dog. The guard chuckles at this, and Shin says he's hungry, and they should head to a fancy restaurant to eat before returning to the palace, to which the guard agrees. We return to Joshua, who is with Count Rebrika. Rebrika apologizes for bothering them, but Jack insists they are honored he attended personally. Joshua comments that he knows Count Rebrika to be a very kind person, noting that he is unfortunate and was born with a weak body despite his great magical power. However, the worst aspect is his weak personality. He can never defend himself, always speaks respectfully, even to those of lower status because of it. As a result, most nobles who know him treat him with contempt for being weak. Yet, despite this, Count Rebrika is the only noble in the kingdom who is respected and loved by the common people. Encel approaches Joshua, welcoming him and mentioning she recognized his blue hair in the restaurant, making Joshua wonder when Encel started speaking for herself. Encel tells Joshua she wants to talk to him about something important, but suddenly, Shin and his guard enter the restaurant, questioning how there are still people there at such a late hour. He then notices Encel and asks when a beautiful girl like her appeared in the capital. He goes to inquire if it's her first time in the capital, but she doesn't respond. The guard intervenes, informing Encel that this is the son of Marquis Felix, and that she is supposed to show respect to him, questioning why the son of such a powerful and influential figure is there. Rebrika interjects, apologizing to Shin for his daughter's behavior and explaining she is shy. Shin asks him who he is, and Rebrika introduces himself as Count Rebrika, head of the Munsell family. The guard tells Shin that Rebrika is an important person in the kingdom. Shin tells Rebrika he does not want an apology, but instead wants his daughter to apologize to him personally. Jack calls Shin very foolish, arguing how can a girl show respect to someone she doesn't know, and that the restaurant is not a proper place to demonstrate respect among nobles. He believes that Count Rebrika should be the one demanding an apology for from Shin. Shin shoves Rebrika aside, demanding Encel understand him. He tells her to apologize and show respect to him immediately, but Joshua interrupts, telling Shin to stop being foolish. He warns him that surely Marquis Felix is worried about his own family, especially since his only son, behaving like this, will not secure the family's future. Shin gets furious and questions how Joshua dares to speak to him like that, while the guard draws his sword, declaring Joshua is surely seeking death. Joshua informs the guard that he has drawn his sword in front of a noble and knows the consequences of such a decision very well. The guard responds, saying Joshua doesn't know what he's talking about, and Joshua retorts that he must atone for the sin he just committed in his life. The guard looks shocked, wondering why a child has such a murderous intent. Shin asks the guard what he's doing and wonders why he hasn't attacked this brat yet. The guard claims there's something wrong, while Joshua tells Shin he asked what his name is, adding that it's Ashvin Frederick. Shin looks surprised and admits this is the first time he has heard that name. Joshua assures him he won't need to worry, and will make sure he remembers it very well from now on. Next, we shift to Lodge Castle, where Count Page is seen enchanted by magic while his daughter Anna speaks with a strange man named Juan. He claims to have arrived as soon as he received her summons and asks what happened. She explains a monster appeared in Duke Agonis's family, and he incredulously asks if she is referring to Babel. She clarifies that it's the Duke's second son, who is even more monstrous than Babel. Juan is shocked and asks how there can be a child even stronger than Babel. Anna tells him that Duke Agonis is hiding all the information about this child, waiting for him to grow stronger to elevate his family's name. Juan tells her this situation is very bad for them, as all the kingdoms are currently boosting their powers dramatically. For commoners, this increase in military strength is typical, and implies that the kingdom is safe, but the leaders of the kingdoms think differently, as they are preparing for war. Anna confirms this, stating that monstrous talents like Babel and Joshua are crucial for their war. There will be no country that participates in a war without a chance of winning. Juan says he will start gathering information about what is happening. However, the appearance of the second child of Agonis is very troublesome and will ruin all their plans. They have been plotting the kingdom's downfall for 10 years and cannot allow someone as strong as Joshua to grow stronger. He will obstruct their plans. Anna reassures him not to worry, as she has a plan to join the Avelian Royal Academy with Joshua and will use all her intelligence and strength to force Joshua to join them in the war against the kingdom. We return once again to Joshua, and Shin tells him that he has never heard about his family. Joshua asks him if his family name matters to him, and Shin replies no, saying he will disappear with his family anyway because he intervened in something that doesn't concern him. He begs Joshua to forgive him, but Joshua laughs at him, calling him truly stupid. Shin gets angry and tells the guard to discipline him quickly. The guard is shocked, draws his sword, and goes to attack Joshua, saying that despite his intent to spill blood, he is just a 10-year-old child who won't be able to do anything against him. He attacks Joshua, saying he will finish him off in a single blow, but Joshua deflects his hand with his sword effortlessly. Everyone is shocked. Joshua counters with his mana-covered hand, defeating the guard. Shin is astonished and says, "How? He defeated a level B knight with just his hand. This is the first time he hears of such a thing. It's impossible for a child to have all this power." Joshua asks Shin how he plans to deal with him, stating he has no intention of showing mercy even if Shin begs. He adds that he is not that merciful. Shin gets angry and questions him about his family name. Joshua tells him it is Frederick. Shin screams he has never heard of a family named Frederick, and that he surely doesn't know the consequences of treating a noble like him this way. He claims to be the heir of Marquis Felix, one of the 12 strongest families in the kingdom. Joshua then attacks Shin and punches him in the face, expressing he is tired of hearing him talk. Shin staggers back and faints. Joshua approaches him, questioning how he can faint from just one blow when he hasn't finished punishing him yet. He grabs Shin to continue hitting him and asks where his power is, as he used to boast about it, but now he's showing he is weak and doesn't deserve his time. Suddenly, the guard Myoker intervenes, apologizing on behalf of his lord, saying that they have been disrespectful and begging Joshua to show them mercy. Myoker admits he doesn't know who this boy is, but judging by his mana strength, he is sure he is a master sword of a certain level, and that he is likely from a powerful noble family. He believes Joshua could dispose of Shin and himself easily, without any consequences. Joshua calls Myoker foolish and points out he told him that as soon as he draws his sword in front of him, he should expect consequences. Joshua had warned him that he is merciless toward his enemies, Miyokur is stunned, realizing Joshua's intent to kill is serious, and that he truly intends to kill them. Miyokur steps back and apologizes, saying they should show them mercy and that he will offer his hand as an atonement for their sins. He admits he failed to protect his lord and deserves punishment, but he also feels Joshua could take his life and leave his lord alive. Joshua thinks this foolish knight reminds him of another foolish knight from his past, who always tried to protect him. He tells Miyokur he already warned him he is merciless toward his enemies. He then grabs Shin, breaks his chain, takes the ring from him, and tells Miyokur that he will stay in the capital for a while. If Shin wants his family ring back, he should come to him and apologize, otherwise, he will sell it in the black market. Jack then tells Joshua he didn't know he'd get so worked up. Joshua responds that all of this is part of his plan, and only he is allowed to get angry, but Jack shouldn't move without orders. Jack asks about Count Rubrica, who is watching Joshua, commenting that every time he looks at him, he sees his power has grown immensely. He calls Joshua an amazing person. Ensel runs to her father, saying she wants to do something important, then quickly leaves. Rubrica looks at Miyokur and asks if he can point him to a clinic nearby where he can treat Shin. Later, Shin wakes up in the clinic after being treated and tells Miyokur that this scoundrel disfigured his face, demanding he bring that scoundrel to him immediately so he can punish him. Miyokur says it's impossible for him to do anything against him with that power. Shin hits him, asserting that a knight cannot lose to a 10-year-old child. He declares he will punish him as soon as they return to their castle. Miyokur says okay, and Shin instructs him to gather all the information he knows about the Frederick family, claiming he will kill them all, even their servants. Miyokur responds that it's impossible for them to do that since they have no justification to attack them. Shin argues they would need more evidence than that, saying he, the heir of Phalis, was attacked and humiliated, nearly killed by that scoundrel. Miyokur argues that no one would believe a 10-year-old child could do such a thing, and if they did anything against them, their family's reputation would fall so low, they wouldn't be nobles anymore. Shin insists it doesn't matter, he just wants Miyokur to follow his orders. Miyokur shouts back that he told Shin their family's honor will fall, and that honor is the most important thing for nobles. Shin is taken aback by Miyokur's shouting. Miyokur warns him that if his father, the Marquis, hears about what happened, his punishment won't just be a simple punishment. Shin reassures him not to worry, saying he has a plan, and they will hide the evidence and kill anyone who knows anything just like last time. He insists that the Rubrica family is weaker than they are and they shouldn't fear them. Miyokur reminds him that there is actual evidence of what happened, as that boy he fought took the Duke's magic ring, which has now disappeared. Miyokur explains that he took it from him and told him if he wants it back, he should go beg for it. Regardless of the ring's importance to them, it would be a disaster if anyone found out the heir of Phalis lost the ring belonging to their magical duke. Miyokur advises that they cannot resort to violence any further, and that Shin needs to calm down and think of peaceful solutions. Shin retorts that it's impossible for him to go and apologize to that child. Miyokur suggests sending someone else in his place. Shin is surprised and says he knows someone well. We return once again to Joshua, who is with Jack. Jack asks if Shin will actually come to apologize. Joshua responds no, and he will surely send a substitute instead, who must be a strong person, and loyal to Shin so no one knows anything at all. Jack asks who they will send, and Joshua thinks they will probably send Baron Accent. He is the game piece in Shin's hand in the capital. Jack is stunned, commenting that Joshua caused enemies with the Phalis family just because he got angry. However, it turns out he planned all this from the beginning and is always preparing for his expectations. Suddenly, Ensel arrives and thanks Joshua for helping them. Joshua tells her there is no need to thank him, as he did not do it to help them. She insists it was thanks to his help that she and her family would have been in danger, but now they are better because of him. Joshua is surprised, saying she is supposed to be the strongest sorceress in the world in the future, yet her personality is completely different from the character he knew. She used to be a killer unaffected by the number of people she killed. He remarks that the title, Ice Witch, suited her due to how she dealt with her enemies in the future. Ensel tells Joshua that her family will support him if any problems arise due to this incident. She says they will also testify before the royal family if needed. Joshua tells her not to worry and that nothing will happen, but since she is insistent, he will ask her for a favor in the future. She happily agrees, saying she will do anything for him. Joshua then notices someone watching them outside the restaurant and laughs. The person quickly disappears before him. This watcher turns out to be Zero, who realizes that he managed to discover that Joshua was watching him. He exclaims that what happened is impossible, and is sure of his own stealth abilities, since not even a knight of Master Sword level could detect him. How did Joshua uncover him? Zero recalls the rumors about Joshua not being an ordinary human, and had thought he was lying about the Moon Gate. However, if he possesses all this power, he was speaking seriously. He starts to question the organization's leaders regarding Joshua's case, thinking about how they would react upon learning he is aware of the moon gate, and that he has no choice but to obey Joshua's orders for now, until he learns everything about him. Later, Baron Accent appears outside the restaurant and sees Count Rubrica and his daughter Ensel coming out. He declares he has arrived at the right place and enters to find Joshua, who laughs as soon as he sees him. Joshua remarks that he expected Baron Accent would be the one to come. Accent greets Joshua using the alias Ashvin Frederick. Jack is taken aback, saying that Accent is a very powerful expert, and that even though he is just a baron, his strength in the black market positions him as a noble of high status. He wonders why Accent is bowing and greeting Joshua, when they told him he is merely the son of a count from the east. Baron Accent tells Joshua that he has come representing his lord Shin, and wants the duke's ring he took, emphasizing that this ring is important to them. Joshua tells him he asked Shin to come himself, and that he should go back and tell him to come take the ring himself. Accent gets angry, asking if they can come to an alternative solution, since his lord Shin is currently indisposed. Joshua responds that Shin is very weak, and suggests he should go fetch Knight Mioker, who is with Shin, and then they will talk. Accent asks if Joshua will indeed give them the ring. Joshua replies that it's possible if they reach an agreement, but he first needs something from them in return for allowing them to negotiate with him at all. He looks at the rings in Accent's hand and comments that they look expensive. He wants them as a price for the opportunity he has given them. Joshua walks with Jack, who comments that he is a devil for taking such valuable treasure from them, and also taking Baron Accent's ring without any hesitation. Joshua argues that he hasn't taken anything from them. It was merely a trade, as he is offering them a chance in exchange for the ring. Jack then asks why he specifically chose Accent's ring. Joshua explains that it is a unique ring, previously owned by the Orvis family, known as the Ring of Moon Tears. He describes how, due to the beauty of the elves and their kind nature, they were exploited and began to be hunted to be enslaved. This led to the death of many, with the survivors fleeing to the forest and establishing a kingdom for themselves there. To protect themselves from humans, they created a strong protective barrier around the forest to prevent humans from entering. However, this barrier was so powerful that it drained life from the elves who maintained it. All the elves who operated this barrier died, except for one who could sustain it. The remaining elves gathered around her, and she became their queen. Her name was Olympus. After decades of peace in the kingdom of elves, the only person who managed to find the secret location of their hidden forest was the wizard Zeros, the leader of the Orvis family, who was a personal friend of the elven queen Olympus. Unfortunately, as soon as he discovered the locations of the elven kingdom, he vanished without a trace. All the rumors that emerged claimed that he disappeared because of his relationship with the Queen Tyrier, but all this information is misleading. Joshua is sure that someone killed him while he was trying to interrogate him about the Elven Forest's location. He concludes that because no one has discovered the forest's location yet, it must mean Zeros did not reveal anything to anyone. He explains that, after the Elven Kingdom learned about what happened to their friend Zeros, they finally showed themselves to the human kingdom to find out what happened to him. However, sadly, they found none of his family, except for one of his daughters, who had become a slave of a noble family. At that moment, she held her hands and cried, and the tears that fell turned into a very strong ring. This ring is known by its name as the Ring of Thousand Tears. The girl who received the ring later died from illness, and the ring has continued to circulate in the market until now, as it is rumored to possess a very special power. Jack later talks to Joshua, saying they finally arrived at their castle and that they need to rest. Joshua tells Jack that he wants a favor from him, and Jack asks what it is.